Good afternoon. I call to order the Knox County Board of Zoning for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. I do apologize for the delay in us getting started, but we did have an important public hearing before. And I would also like to welcome our junior commissioners. This is their first zoning meeting, so buckle up and you'll have a good time. And if you have any questions, let us know. Welcome 2025 and Happy New Year to everyone. And I will turn it over to Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Rawls.
Present.
Commissioner Darrett.
Here.
Commissioner Oster.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Russell. Here. Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. Here. Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay. Here. Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
And now I'll call the roll for the junior commissioners. Junior Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Junior Commissioner Zanders.
Here.
Junior Commissioner Tarbox. Junior Commissioner Patel.
Present.
Junior Commissioner Whitcomb. Junior Commissioner Brizard.
Here.
Junior Commissioner Price.
Here.
Junior Commissioner Kingsford.
Here.
Junior Commissioner Davis. Junior Commissioner Graves.
Here.
Junior Commissioner Greenwood.
Present.
Thank you. And I will now turn it over to Commissioner Lee for the Pledge of Allegiance.
If everyone could stand and salute our flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item. Amendments to the agenda. Do we have any discussion? We do have one deferral, number 12, to February, and that's it. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hill has,
thank you. If I could also ask for a deferment for item Carnes Valley Road, I apologize. Yes, number 9. Thank you. Please.
all right. So we have number 9 and number 12 deferred to February. And I believe Commissioner Durrett was the motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Jay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Approval of the minutes. Approval of minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Frazier, a second by Commissioner Hill. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. I will now turn over to Director Moyers to swear in the individuals that will be testifying.
All right, if you're going to testify before this body tonight on any item on the agenda, if you're going to speak either for or against any item on the agenda tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Is that everybody? You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated, please.
I guess it's left up to you all.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. Okay. All right. And on the public forum, we do have quite a few signed up to speak, and we will be doing those individually when we get to the item number. I just wanted everybody to know that. So we will go to next item.
Zoning item number 1 is 12-E-24-RZ. It's a request of Ever Arias for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential. The property is located at 1420 Church Pit Road, parcel ID 105-112 in the 3rd Commission District.
Thank you. If you will come to the podium and state your name and county of residence for the record, and that would be great.
My name's Michael Shaddle. I live at 1311 Live Oak Circle, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay, thank you. Is there any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development by a vote of 12-0.
Thank you. And would you like to speak to your project?
Yeah, I'm a licensed land surveyor, and 1420 is zoned as agricultural. And so the adjoining property is the son-in-law of the owner, and he was given some property, but in order for him to acquire that property, the current agricultural would go under an acre, and so it needs to be rezoned as RA.
Yeah, and that's actually in my district. Almost everything around that's RA, so I'm completely fine with this. So I will make a motion to approve the RA zone because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and the surrounding development.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Oster, second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, and best of luck with your project. Next item, please.
Item number 2 is 11-B-24-RZ. It's a request of Terry and Wilma C. Gaylor for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential. The property is located at 1915 Andes Road, parcel ID 105AA005 in the 6th Commission District.
Good evening. If you'll step up to the podium and push that button, the red light should come on. Pull that down so you guys are comfortable. If you'll just state your name and county of residence.
Wilma Christine Gaylor in Knox County.
Terry L. Gaylor, Knox County.
Thank you. And do we have any opposition to this item? I do believe that I saw Mr. Munger. Oh, it's not this item. I apologize. Sorry about that. That was M, not B. So seeing no opposition to this item, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development.
Okay. Would you like to speak to your project? Just tell us what you're wanting to do there.
We own 2 adjoining pieces of property, and our daughter, we want to put a little home on there for a little tiny home for one of our daughters.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Do we have any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question for planning. Did I read in the report that this is a request to bring it into compliance because it's less than the required 1 per acre for ag?
And that's correct. It's a half-acre site, so it doesn't meet the minimum lot requirements.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I had a very nice talk with these folks, have no issue at all with their intent for the property, and we need to vote and get them out of here because they're missing church. And I told them we started at 5 and they
I'm
wouldn't
so
miss
sorry.
church. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve RA zoning because it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and surrounding development.
All right. And I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, a second by Commissioner Thompson. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck and drive careful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And I'm the pastor of the church.
Well, they can't start without you. Next item, please.
The next item is number 3. It's 10-A-24-SNC. It's a request of Jim Snowden, Knox County Engineering and Public Works, to change the street name of Andes Road to Ball Road between Shad Road and the northeast corner of parcel 091 PA 037 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Snowden.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm
back
sorry.
here. They got me in the
I couldn't find
corner.
you and Amy.
They got me in the corner back here. Yeah, items 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all related to as we've constructed the new Shad Road corridor. We've had to take the new road off alignment. In doing so, we've created some unique situations where some of the street names are disconnected. So after speaking with addressing staff, Brad Anders at 911, we did have to change some names of some streets. There was some opposition to that at Planning Commission. We went back and actually mailed out some alternatives for people and allowed them to make a choice. We didn't obviously receive 100% concurrence, but we did have an open process there and let folks make gave them some options on it. And just appreciate your support on this because it would allow us to there's a lot of sections of Ball Camp Pike, as you know, along Oak Ridge Highway, and just cleaning that up will allow for a better emergency access. So
Okay.
all these are related to that same issue.
Okay, perfect. And I don't see on any of these that we have anybody signed up for public forum. Do we have any questions? Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the name change from Andes Road to Ball Road as requested by Knox County Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you.
Motion to approve. Second.
I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Frazier and a second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Item number 4 is 10-C-24-SNC, request of Jim Snowden, Knox County Engineering and Public Works, to change the street name of Ball Camp Pike to Ball Road between Ball Road and the west corner of parcel 091109 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Snowden, same.
Yes, ma'am, all these are very similarly related.
Okay. And Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the name change from Ball Camp Pike to Ball Road as requested by Knox County Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, a second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
Commissioner
all
Hill.
right. I just wanted to make a brief statement in case any folks are watching at home. This has been a very painful process. We do not take it lightly at all. I know some of these folks have had their street address for years and years and years, and it's been very difficult. Unfortunately, it's been unavoidable, and kudos to Mr. Stone and his staff, though, for being as open to accepting other names, which sometimes didn't work because of various reasons with EMS and that type of thing. But anyway, this is not done lightly, even though we're breezing through it tonight. It's a big deal when you change an address. So, thank you.
Thank you for stating that. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Item number 5, 12-A-24-SNC, request of Jim Snowden, Knox County Engineering and Public Works, to change the street name of Andes Road to Bailey Farm Drive between Ball Camp Pike and the northeast corner of parcel 091PA037 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you.
Motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the name change from Andes Road to Bailey Farm Drive as requested by Knox County Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you. We got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rawls. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Item number 6, 12-B-24-SNC is a request of Jim Snowden, Knox County Engineering and Public Works, to change the street name of Ball Camp Pike to Bailey Farm Drive between the west corner of parcel 104046 and Andes Road in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the name change from Ball Camp Pike to Bailey Farm Drive as requested by Knox County Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, a second by Commissioner Rawls. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Item number 7, 11-A-24-RZ is a request of David Harbin for rezoning from PR Plan Residential up to 3 dwelling units per acre to PR Plan Residential up to 8 dwelling units per acre. The property is located at 7507 Ball Camp Pike, parcel ID 091-20103 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins.
Yeah, Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for the applicant.
Thank you. And I don't see any opposition that's signed up. Just want to make sure nobody out there. Okay. Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve PR Plan Residential's up to 8 dwelling units per acre with the following condition. During the development plan review, ensuring that the property has viable access to Shad Road. If access to Shad Road is not feasible, the property owner may be required to make appropriate improvements to Ball Camp Pike as deemed necessary by Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works, and shall enter into a memorandum of understanding for such improvements.
Thank
13 to
you.
0.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, would you like to speak to the project?
Yeah, briefly, this property is just south of another property that was approved for 8 units an acre back in August of 2024. That was unanimously approved by this body. The difference between the property just to the north of us and this is the property that, for my client only, right now currently has access to Ball Camp Pike. The other property does have access to both Ball Camp Pike and the Shod Road extension. What we propose, we asked for, it's currently zoned PR at 3 units an acre. We asked for the same 8 dwelling units an acre that was approved on the adjacent parcel with the same condition that was placed on the adjacent parcel. We don't have direct access to Shod Road right now, but we suspect when both of these properties move forward with a development plan, I think suspect may even be the wrong term, that there will be some interconnectivity between them. When you passed the advanced Knox plan, it mentioned connectivity between neighborhoods 21 times. That's not a hyperbole, I actually did a word count on it. So 21 times connectivity is mentioned as far as avoiding cul-de-sacs and making sure that these neighborhoods do connect to one another and connect to additional infrastructure as they are developed. That's one of the priorities we adopted through the advanced Knox. And so we suspect that when development plans move forward, there'll be connections required between these neighborhoods. It's not the circumstance where you often see a new neighborhood coming in trying to connect to another one and that causing kind of headaches and problems. These will be moving forward probably pretty close to one another. But in the worst case scenario, if it does not have access to Shod Road, then they can't do anything until they enter into a memorandum of understanding with the county and do those connections, those improvements to Ball Camp Pike to make that road be able to handle the infrastructure that's there at that property. There's not been any neighborhood opposition. There's not been any comments online in opposition. So I would ask that you follow Planning Commission's recommendation and approve this. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And do we have any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mullins, what are the plans? What are they going to do with the property?
They don't have any specific plans yet. This is the property owner that's making the request, and he does not have, it's under contract, doesn't have any plans yet. 8 units an acre, you're looking at potentially some townhomes, that it would allow, I think, 40 units on that property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. Ben, I know that we talked briefly about this. It does give me a little bit of heartburn because it was just rezoned a couple of years ago to 3 per acre, but I do understand that was before the new growth plan was passed. If I could ask Director Snowden, and Jim, I apologize, I didn't get to you earlier on this, but can you verify that the parcel behind it will in fact have access to Shod Road?
Yes, I believe that's the parcel that's owned by Mr. Chabon. And yes, he does, and he will have access. We're working with him right now to secure an access permit. Now, that access will be right in, right out, because where he falls, he doesn't align within a median opening at any point along his frontage. But yes, we would grant him an access for a residential street on Shod Road at that location.
All right. And I know this is looking down the pike, but do you have a sense of, when you talk, Mr. Mullins talks about connectivity, well, I know you can't know this because it's 2 separate owners, but any possibility that that parcel in question now could, in fact, connect via a road or anything to Shod Road also? I'm just trying to keep it off of Ball Camp.
Sure, and I think what Ben talks about is, in Advanced Knox, we focused on that. I'd like for Amy to maybe chime in too, but I mean, I think with this location and where it's at, I think we would certainly encourage them, if Mr. Chabon came in with the development plan, to put a stub out into his property that could be used at the time that another development came through with this one. So yeah, we would definitely want to limit that access. That the proximity to the rail crossing is kind of a challenge there. So we want to try to limit that access if we possibly can.
All right. Director Brooks, did you have anything you wanted to add? Or,
No, I don't have.
okay, okay. Thank you. Are we ready for a motion?
We have another question.
Oh, all right. I'll defer.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Brooks, I noticed in the staff report, they recommended denial. Can you speak to that?
Yes, that's correct. Staff did recommend denial. And really, the primary rationale was because unlike the one property that was recently rezoned, that this one did not have access to Shad Road. And as Director Snowden just mentioned, the proximity to the railroad, those were concerns that we had about increased density. But those were all addressed in the Planning Commission's condition
And
of
that was
approval.
my next question to Director Snowden. I noticed that it's, 415 feet from the elevated railroad, and that the case file stated that engineering does have concerns about further development on this section of Ball Camp Pike. In regards to the conditions that were placed by Planning Commission, do those address your concerns?
They do. I mean, obviously, our hope is to get access to Shad, but if they do come in off of Ball Camp, we would require their access to be pushed as far as east as possible, because you're right, that railroad crossing's elevated and they're going to have some line of sight challenges. But based on what I see the conditions are, Engineering Public Works is comfortable with those.
And I know you mentioned that we had approved the property north. The difference is Ball Camp Pike. I do have concerns about access from Ball Camp Pike, especially the surrounding development, the density that accesses Ball Camp, which immediately is correlated to the number of vehicles or average daily vehicle trips. The density is right around 3.5. And so by bumping up the density to 8, then we are adding more vehicles if you cannot get access to Shad. So that's concerning, but I do hope that the condition would address that as well. Ben, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, the condition was worded exactly like the condition for the property to the north, because even though the road improvements for Shad Road were touching that property, they didn't know at that time that it would be able to access that. And so otherwise, the property would only have access to Ball Camp. And so their condition was, if you do access Ball Camp, you've got to deal with all this and through traffic impact analysis, identify the improvements. And I suspect there'd be probably some substantial improvements that would be needed along that short section of Ball Camp because of the conditions that Director Snowden mentioned. So we asked for the same treatment that, if you're going to we don't want to access Ball Camp. We hope that we will be able to access Shad Road. I mean, that's the reason we've spent so many millions of dollars improving and extending Shad Road through there. But at the very least, if we can't solve the site distance problems, if we can't do the improvements, then the 8 units and acres, theoretical at that point, it can't be developed at that density without doing those improvements.
Okay, that's on the record. Y'all heard it, right?
If we can't solve it, yes.
Just so we know. And then, let's see, I had another question about the contours. There seems to be quite a few sinkholes here. Jim, Director Snowden, do you have any concerns?
Commissioner Frazier, I haven't looked at that closely, but our recent adoption of our stormwater ordinance did speak to sinkholes, and we've strengthened our language that says that you can't fill, alter, or modify a sinkhole, plus we buffer those. So I believe any long-term impact to a property owner would be protected with those requirements.
And Director Snowden, did you say that access to the parcel to the north from Shad is a right in, right out?
That the other parcel that I don't believe is under consideration here, that adjoins it to the north, that is owned by Mr. Shaban, that section of roadway is, the median encompasses his entire frontage. So yes, he will have a right in, right out condition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I'll turn it over to District Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we approve PR up to 8 dwelling units per acres with the following condition: during the development phase, ensuring that the property has viable access to Shad Road. If access to Shod Road is not feasible, the property owner will be required to make appropriate improvements to Ball Camp Pike as deemed necessary by Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works, and will enter into a MOU as such, with every effort made to respect the easement that parallels Valley Grove Lane on the other side of Ball Camp.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Jay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
The next item is number 8, is 12-A-24-RZ. It's a request of Homestead Land Holdings LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR Plan Residential up to 4 dwelling units per acre in the planned growth area only. The property is located at 1824 North Campbell Station Road, parcel ID 117014, part of, in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. The applicant present. Hi. If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Thomas Krajewski, Homestead Land Holdings, 122 Perimeter Park Drive.
Thank you. And I don't see any opposition to this item, so Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the surrounding development supported by residential amenities.
Thank you. And would you like to speak to your project?
Sure. I'll just say a few things. This is a portion of a 11.6 acre tract. It's just over 6 acres that we're looking to rezone. There's 2 different place types on this property, and so we're focusing on the place type adjacent to Campbell Station Road. As such, we initially, when we submitted application, we asked for 2.4 units an acre over the entirety of the property. And after working with planning staff, revised it to 4 units an acre just on the SR place type. And so that we would have focused our efforts and the project on that frontage anyway, because that's where the best topography is. And so the zoning matches that. And that's similar to how the other properties up and down that section of roadway have been developed, where they've been clustered closer to the roadway. So that's what it is. It's a small residential infill project.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any questions from commissioners?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Oh, I will defer to Commissioner Frazier.
Okay, Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good, good. Director Snowden, there are no capital improvements planned for Campbell Station Road, correct?
That is correct, no ma'am. There are no improvements planned.
Okay, this is my neck of the woods. Campbell Station, right now, I believe, is exceeding capacity. It's very concerning. I have been talking with Director Snowden to get part of Campbell Station a repavement project on some sort of capital improvement plan. But I do have concerns with not putting in a right-in or some sort of turn lane to enter the subdivision, just because we required that of Catatoga when I didn't, but before I was on commission. That applicant, there were a lot of improvements that were required of him to get that zoning. So I don't know if that has been considered at all. This one gives me a little bit of heartburn, even though how many lots are you looking at?
You know, a maximum, it would be of about 24 lots.
24
would be
lots.
an absolute maximum. If it was townhomes, if it's detached homes, it'll be less than that, half that, so.
Okay.
Just kind of depends. It's just based on the constraint of the footprint of the project. And I'll say that the one difference maybe from Catatoga is that I think Catatoga is about 120 units total compared to about 24. They did do some pretty major road improvements there to Catatoga with the turn lane. I think it was the number of units that kind of drove that. We would obviously work with engineering and our engineer to figure out, what's needed for the scale of project that this is.
Right.
Given that it's about 24 units.
What's the pavement width on
Got-
Campbell Station?
Sure, I think it's right around 20 feet, right there it's got a 50-foot right-of-way and a 20-foot pavement width.
And no shoulders?
No shoulders, it is striped with, white stripes on the sides.
Sure, okay. I would just ask that you work with engineering, because I do have a lot of concerns with adding additional homes. Did you say that you were gonna do single-family residential?
It will be single-family residential, just a matter of what type of product, that's to be determined still.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an interesting point to bring up about this and perhaps other items on the agenda. And that has to do with the engaging in the law business as an applicant. And I have spoken with Mr. Moyers, and I look forward to hearing his opinion on this. But this is nothing personally against the applicant or the project, but if you look at the definition of engaging in law business in Tennessee, it includes basically obtaining or tending to secure for any person any property or property rights whatsoever. So in other words, if somebody, if they are pursuing some type of zoning or something like that for someone other than themselves, ostensibly, they are obtaining or tending to secure for any person any property or property rights. And in order to do that, you have to be a lawyer, or you can be pro se, you can represent yourself, or you can be a lawyer and represent somebody. But I don't think that this comes up all the time in like court settings where you have a corporation that wants to evict somebody, like somebody set up a small company, the mom and pop are renting out units to people, and then somebody didn't pay, so they're trying to evict them, and they just show up to court on behalf of their company, and they get told in court, well, you can't appear for a corporation, you have to get a lawyer to do that. And I think that what's been going on is people representing corporations as an individual, not being a lawyer, is a form of the law business, which is actually prohibited. And as a lawyer, I am particularly, I have ethical duties against facilitating the practice of law or engaging in the law business myself. And I'm frankly a little bit nervous about continuing to vote when people appear on behalf of a corporation. But my question, sir, is this particular tract of land owned by, the company that is seeking the change in zoning?
Sure, so Homestead Land
Homestead
Holdings.
LLC.
Homestead Land Holdings, yes. And so we are the option holder for the property. So we have a contract with the landowner, and I've been working with the landowner.
And
are
who's
the option holder.
As of right now, who's on the deed?
It is the property owner is on the deed of the property, which would be Christine Perry, I believe.
Okay. All right, so, and are you a licensed attorney by any chance?
I am not a licensed attorney,
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna have to pass on this. I think that's what I am called to do. Now, and I welcome Mr. Moyer, or Director Moyer's statement on this. We've had some colloquy by email. But anyways, that concerns me. I think that it is bordering on, when somebody appears and they're not a lawyer and they're appearing for somebody other than the deed holder, to me, that's representing somebody for the purpose of obtaining or tending to secure for a person property rights. Because what's going on, this person doesn't have property rights to build at the current density, or at the density that's requested. So they're coming to this body and saying, hey, give me some more property rights. Well, that fits right into the law business to me. So I'm just announcing that, and it's gonna come up later in this zoning meeting as well. And I defer to Director Moyers if he wishes to speak on this.
Well, I would say that when I came into the office this morning, I had the email from Commissioner Fox, and unfortunately, I've been in BZA meetings since 9 o'clock this morning, but I had a little chance to look at this question. There's not any case law I can find directly on point, but there are some pretty strong suggestions. There was a case called Haverty Furniture versus Faust, in which the credit manager for a furniture company was filling out what's called replevin documents, basically documents to repossess furniture that wasn't paid for, and presenting them to the justice of the peace for execution. This was challenged, and the Court of Appeals ruled that that was not the practice of law. They looked at the statutory definition, and they noted in several places how the law of business, if you look at the definition, again and again and again, says doing these things for valuable consideration. Now, clearly, that's the sort of thing that Mr. Mullins does. He's got no direct connection with the defendant, but for a price, he comes and represents the applicant in front of the board. The gentleman in the Faust case it was part of his business was doing this. He wasn't doing it separately for consideration. I think that's more the case here, more the case with several of the other people that we've heard from today who also were not lawyers. During the course of the BZA meeting today, we had several people who presented both as applicants and in opposition and claimed to represent public interest organizations, homeowners associations. None of them were attorneys. And if I were to accept Commissioner Fox's reading of this law, all of them would be subject to arrest and up to 12 months or 11 months, 29 days in jail. I don't think that's what this law is aimed at getting at. These cases that deal with the unauthorized practice of law say that these statutes are designed to protect the public from people who would represent them who aren't qualified to do that. In this particular cases where a closely held corporation or a corporation of any site sends one of their employees as a representative to plead their case before the county legislative body, I don't think saying you can't come here protects the public at all, which is what these laws are designed to do. Additionally, there was another case, In re Burson, where somebody was doing something rather like this and representing themselves or someone else. Maybe I can't remember the exact details, but what the court said was the practice of law only arises if the acts that are being done require the professional judgment of a lawyer. And in my view, if you're coming here representing your company, seeking rezoning of property, that's a business decision. That's a business request. That does not require the professional judgment of a lawyer necessarily. So, and then finally, I would say that enshrined in the First Amendment of the Federal Constitution and Article 1, I can't remember which one, Tennessee Constitution, the same language, enshrined is the right of people to petition their government for the redress of grievances, which has been interpreted as basically any time you come before the government to ask for change. Now, these are First Amendment protected speech activities. So my view is that in the absence of direct case law that says that this sort of thing is inappropriate, I suggested to Commissioner Fox that we ask the Board of Professional Responsibility if it would consider this to be the unauthorized practice of law. But in the absence of that, I think when you consider that people have the right to petition their government, and when you consider that if we accept this interpretation, anybody who steps up here claiming to represent anyone else, including somebody who represents a public interest organization or somebody who represents a homeowners association, if they're not an attorney, they are committing a Class A misdemeanor. That's pretty serious business. And so I would err on the side of saying in the absence of a directive from the courts or something a lot more definitive than reading 23.101, that I just don't believe that someone who's doing what this gentleman is doing is a violation of that law or is intended to be. But I think it's an interesting question, and I do intend to address it with the Board of Professional Responsibility and see if they have any, if they've ever ruled on that. But I think for the purposes of this evening and what I know at this point, I would have to say that I do not believe that what this gentleman's doing and what the other people in the BZA were doing is a violation of the laws against the unauthorized practice of law.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, and I have a high regard for the former chancellor on that issue, who certainly is more experienced in rendering opinions about statutes than I do. The only thing, and I may change my vote based upon your public opinion, but I do want to point out that the case, I think there's a distinction between practice of law and law of business. Those are two defined terms within the statute, and I would agree with the practice of law. But I don't think that someone who's opposing it requires somebody who's representing a homeowners association is required to obtain an attorney, because they're not trying to secure property or property rights. They're opposing something. So, I mean, I think there's a distinction there. But in light of your public opinion to provide guidance to the body, I think I'll withdraw that objection at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay?
Thank you.
I will pursue that, though, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to encourage my colleagues to stay focused for just a minute. We're halfway through a zoning meeting. The item before you is about a rezoning. Some of the questions related that have already been posed are things that are done after zoning, during concept plans, during work with engineering. Vote on what you're presented to. If you have a legal question about this proceeding, have a workshop, bring it up, talk about it, research it. We're in the middle of a zoning meeting on item number 8, and we got to stay focused on the task at hand as what we're asked to vote on. And please, I encourage Commissioner Hill to move this item forward and continue.
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies to my colleagues. I did have a couple of more questions or comments that I wanted clarification for, so I'm sorry to ask for the floor back. Director Brooks, the staff recommendation and the planning recommendation says approve PR zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with surrounding development. I agree that it is an extension of the zone, but not of the density. The surrounding density ranges from 2 to 2.7 at the highest. Can you clarify as to why planning staff or planning commission would consider that consistent?
There is, but yes, with the zoning district, so there is RA in close proximity across the street from this property, as well as there's a small piece of it adjacent, and essentially RA, the density works out to about 4 dwelling units per acre.
But El Ranchero, that subdivision was not built out at 4 per acre.
I don't disagree with that, no.
Also, this property is adjacent to other ag property, and as it states, PR is partially related in the suburban residential. And so when looking at the criteria, the additional criteria that must be met for a partially related zone in a place type, I don't see that at least one of those criteria are met. Can you tell me which one Planning Commission felt was met?
Give me a second, I'll turn to that. This one was passed on consent, so there was not discussion at Planning Commission about this particular item.
Shocking.
So the review criteria for zoning amendment request, when there's a partially related, when the zoning district is partially related to the place type. So 1, the proposed zoning district is consistent with one or more, with the secondary uses of the subject site's place type. I would say that is one that is met. The proposed zoning district is compatible with the current zoning of adjacent sites, so it doesn't speak to the, how those properties were built out, but how they are zoned, and I would say that it's consistent with that. And it is directly related to, well, planned residential is not directly related to any place types.
So where I'm struggling is not the zoning, but the density.
May I speak to that, Commissioner Frazier? So this was a conversation in our office as well. So basically, the zoning on the front portion of the property that we're requesting equates to about 24 units an acre if it's maxed out. One of the differences between this property and the other projects that came before it is the other projects that came before it were zoned over the gross acreage of the totality of the tract. This is only a portion of the tract. And so if you take the total acreage of this property, of the parcel, the one parcel, it's 11.6 acres. If you take 24 units divided by 11.6 acres, you end up at 2.06 units per acre, basically 2 units an acre for the totality of the acreage of the tract. In order to work with the place types and the new comprehensive land use plan, we were both advised by staff and internally agreed that we can concentrate our development where we would, concentrate our rezoning where we would concentrate our development, which is on the front portion of the property. But by doing so, it increased the requested density, if you will, for that front portion in order to keep the rear of the property undisturbed or with no units on it.
And it will remain undisturbed?
It'll have no units on it, correct. It's just all of the homes, all of the parcels that we're looking to create will be on the front 6 acres.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Also want to say too, Thomas and their group, they do have a great product, and they have been very community friendly in some of those areas that they have gone into in Knox County, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. We've had conversations with some adjacent landowners here and the HOA across the street. They had some questions, so we worked with some of them.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to turn this over to District Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, and I do appreciate the fact that you've had communication with the surrounding neighbors. I know that that's something we always look for, and I mean, like Commissioner Frazier, this gives me heartburn because of Campbell Station Road. Commissioner, Director Snowden, did I see where that is going to be getting a repave?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Frazier had, I think, either brought it from a constituent, or I can't remember where the origin came from. But yes, we did look at it. We had hoped to pave it last year and just weren't able to get it in the budget. But from Black Road or the county line at the town of Farragut down to Hardin Valley will be resurfaced this calendar year, hopefully probably sometime in the summer.
All right, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve this up to 4 dwelling units per acre in the planned growth area only. Property, because it's consistent with surrounding development. The one condition I'd like to place, though, is that the entrance onto North Campbell Station Road aligns with El Rancho Trail.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hill, a second by Commissioner Jay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Good luck with your project.
Thank you, Commission.
Next item, please.
Number 9 has been deferred. Number 10 is 12-G-24-RZ. It's a request of Benjamin C. Mullins for rezoning from A Agricultural, CA General Business to RB General Residential. Properties located at 6350 Clinton Highway, parcel ID 068 IB 009 in the 7th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins?
Yeah, Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for the applicant.
All right, I don't see any opposition to this item, and I don't have anybody written down. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RB General Residential Zone because it is a minor extension that provides a compatible transition of land intensity, subject to one condition.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Mullins? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mullins, there were quite a few comments, public comments that were made with concerns expressed about stormwater runoff, that there continues to be an issue with stormwater runoff. I think we had just kind of a brief dialogue about that and also talked about increasing the tree buffer potentially.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that and give you a little bit of background. The following rezoning is another parcel. This is an assemblage of parcels that two sisters inherited when their father passed. And they asked me to seek a rezoning so they could put it on the market and make it marketable. In fact, it is under a contract right now for a developer who's looking at that. And so I was able to speak to the developer about how they intend to address the stormwater issues and also the buffer question that you asked. It is adjacent to Cherry Brook, which has the RB zoning, even though it was built out. That development was done in 1966. I don't know what the stormwater ordinances looked like in 1966, but I'm sure they're not nearly as robust as what Director Snowden has in place now. But the plat does have stormwater easements that are accessible to this property, and the developer has under contract, has reached out to Amanda Perkey in Jim's office, and they're setting up a meeting to discuss what they need to do on the stormwater to make sure they can connect to it and make sure that their property at least does no harm to the adjoining properties and looking at potentially an MOU on what needs to be done in that area. So they're looking towards that. Again, that'll be at the permitting phase or the development plan phase. But they are looking ahead to that because that was the primary concern from some of the neighbors in Cherry Brook that did post some comments online, as well as the privacy. And the 20-foot buffer zone, was added by planning staff to address those privacy concerns. I've not heard any opposition since that condition was imposed. I did talk to the developer. They want to keep it at 20 foot, but they feel confident they can honor that and make sure that there's a nice robust buffer. If they need to grade into it for any reason, such as for stormwater improvements, they'll replace what's there. So they're comfortable with the 20 foot. This is, it's split zoned right now. The front portion of it is CA, but the place stop that was placed was SMR, and the RB zoning is a directly related place stop to the SMR. This is an urban growth area. It's a transition from density from, a major arterial in the urban growth area to some older subdivisions. So I think this kind of fits exactly what we were looking for Advanced Knox.
So if after a plan is approved and construction comes underway, if the adjacent property owners continue to see stormwater issues, is your client willing to work with the county to mitigate those issues?
That's the whole purpose in talking to him on the front end as to what needs to be done. And I think the intent was to look at, what part of this is on the developer, what part of this would be on the county, and enter into an MOU kind of, but again, that meeting hasn't happened. I know they're in conversations in having that meeting.
Okay, would you let me know when it does?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seeing no other questions, I'll turn it over to District Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, Mr. Mullins, you've answered the concerns I had as well. And would the tree buffer also help with the noise? That would be another concern, I'm sure. But I think this would be a good use of the land. So I will be making a motion to approve the general residential zone because it's a minor extension that provides a compatible transition of land use intensity subject to one condition.
Thank you. I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lee.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Best of
Thank
luck
you.
with your project.
Appreciate it.
Next item, please.
Item number 11 is 12-H-24-RZ. It's the request of Benjamin C. Mullins for rezoning from A Agricultural, CA General Business to CA General Business, located at 6356 Clinton Highway, parcel ID 068IB008 in the 7th Commission District.
Thank you. Didn't have to go far, did you?
Ma'am.
Mr. Mullins?
Yeah, Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for the applicant.
Thank you. And I don't see any opposition. I don't have any signed up. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the CA General Business Zone because it is a minor extension within and external to the parcel that is consistent with the surrounding development.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, would you like to speak to the project?
Yeah, briefly, this one is kind of an odd parcel. Like I said, the sisters inherited several parcels along that corridor with the larger one behind it. The front zone is a CA, but that parcel extends into the ag zone. And I guess at some point there was a policy decision to extend CA so many feet back away from Clinton Highway and didn't capture all of this parcel, but the advanced Knox place type that was placed on it was for the CC that did extend back. So with the idea that, the CA and the RB are actually, for residential developments, compatible because they allow the same uses, it would make sense just to follow the place type and extend that CA back and not change that, not have to worry about any plan amendments. And so that's what we asked to do, to kind of fill in the lines and extend that CA, and so it's compatible with the property lines and the place type.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Mullins? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the CA General Business Zone because it's a minor extension within and external to the parcel that's consistent with the surrounding development.
I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lee. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Durrett. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
Thank you all very much.
Next item.
Item number 12 has been deferred, so we're on item number 13. 12-F-24-RZ is a request of Randy Gennard for rezoning from R8 low-density residential to PR Plan residential up to 3 dwelling units per acre. Properties located at 0 Parker Hill Lane, parcel ID 060PC014 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Gennard, if you'll give your name and address for the record, please.
Randy Gennard, 5408 Fountain Gate Road, Knoxville.
Thank you. I don't have anybody signed up for opposition. I don't see anybody, and so Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone with a density of up to 3 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the surrounding development amenities.
Thank you. Mr. Gennard, would you like to speak to your project?
I'd just like to ask for, to pass it along as recommended.
Okay.
And just like to say that Cafe International is wholly owned by myself and my wife.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
I just had to poke at Andy a little bit.
There you go. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gennard? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to District Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've spoken with the applicant. If no one else has any other questions or comments, I'll make a motion to approve.
I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson. Was that you, Commissioner Jay? Okay. Second by Commissioner Jay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Best of luck with your project. Next item, please.
Item number 14, 12-D-24-RZ is a request of Masana Investments LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR Plan residential up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The property is located at 205 North Wooddale Road, parcel ID 062-047 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, ma'am. Drew Staton, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville, Tennessee 37939.
Thank you. I do see we have 3 signed up for opposition. So we have, the applicant will have 5 minutes, and then each speaker will have 5 minutes. So Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve PR Plan Residential Zone up to 6 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your project?
I'll let the opposition go first, please.
You've got to go first.
All right, apologies. I just respectfully request approval per
I
planning.
appreciate that.
Planning
but,
Commission
yeah.
recommendation. I'm not going to be available to answer any questions for either opposition or you all.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. My first one signed up to speak is Mr. Sullivan. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Mine are done cold. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mick Sullivan. My wife Lisa and I have lived at 444 North Wooddale Road since 2001. I'm here this evening to speak on my concern.
It is on? Okay, I just wanted to
That
make sure.
wasn't close
If you'll just
enough, I
speak
bet.
into it. Yeah, there you go.
Speak into the mic. Wasn't, my purpose is to speak on this, on the safety concerns about this proposal. I'm retired. Received a BS in civil engineering at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I've been trained and have experience with highway design and also with traffic safety.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan, we need to get the time up, and I wanted to make sure we get,
Yes, ma'am.
everybody's treated fairly,
Yes, ma'am.
so.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. The road frontage is less than 280 feet, and just south of the top of this steep hill, if you look at the photo on the left, see the hill box view of the speed limit. The photo on the right is coming the other way. It's also on a hill, and there's three, you see the three light poles on the right, just past that first driveway there, where the this side of the road frontage is. Notice there is no shoulder, and also it's a very narrow road. And just imagine that a bus a little bit farther down stopping to pick up children and putting out his stop sign, and then somebody popping over that steep hill the other way. Okay, so this is the road frontage, and you see the trees there on the right at the bottom right. The road frontage actually starts prior to the top of the hill, and it goes just past that house there on the left, just past that driveway. So imagine a vehicle coming out of the development. That would be from left to right there, maybe about halfway down the road frontage, and somebody popping over the hill. Having driven up and down this road for 23 years, I can tell you that most people drive 40 or even higher on this road. So according to Tennessee driver's license manual, 40 miles an hour is 60 feet per second. So a vehicle would be about 60 feet over the top of the hill before they saw a problem of a vehicle coming out, turning left, and blocking both lanes of traffic. So you use perception of the problem, the reaction time to brake, and then the distance after braking. And you would come to a stop, again, if we're looking about halfway down, the vehicle will come to a stop at bam, at impact with that vehicle coming out. Now remember the access road actually, the road frontage starts prior to the top of the hill. So 140 feet is your stopping distance, and that would be on further down, closer to where that house is right there. So, Commissioners, I'd like to thank you for the time this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan. We appreciate that, and appreciate all the work that you put into this also. The next speaker I have is Jennifer Blakely. You're fine.
Appreciate your enthusiasm.
If you'll just state your name and county of residence for the record, please.
Jennifer Blakely, I own 307 Wooddale Road, which is the property adjacent to the requested, to 205 North Wooddale Road. Thank you, commissioners, for having me here today. This is me and my family, our first time being here, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I know you guys are old hats at this, so.
Don't be nervous, just like you're talking friends.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. And I was going to speak about three things, but one of them I don't have to speak about because Mr. Sullivan just covered it. So I was going to talk about the road. The only thing I will say about that is that he's lived there for 25 years. He's a civil engineer. He knows these things. I've lived there I've lived there or owned the place since 1980. My mom before that, her mom before that, and her parents before that. So since the early 1940s, we've owned that property. And since at least that time, they've been worried about their kids on that hill. So if you bring in 66 new houses to that hill, then that's 66 parents worried about sending their kids to school on that hill. The only other thing I'll say about that is I know Asheville Highway is a development corridor. I've gotten up to speed on your all's growth plan, which is great, and your East Knox County small area plan. And the thing I'll say about that is that the East Knox County, somebody earlier mentioned a word count. The East Knox County area plan calls for protection of agriculture 91 times and farming 79 times. You guys have heard a lot today in the zoning meeting about changing agricultural land to non-agricultural land. Since 1950, there has been 323 million acres in the United States, which is twice the size of Texas, that has lost agricultural land. We've lost that much agricultural land. You guys tonight have heard, I don't know how much, 50, 60 acres of that being changed. So that's the second thing that I'll talk about is the agricultural land. My family, like I said, has owned that land. It's a small farm. We're a small farm, and the land next to it, the Oglesby Farm, is also a small farm. And we farmed the same way since the 1940s. We have a thing, commendation from the governor of Tennessee in 1942 for producing, I wrote in my letter 90%, it's not 90%, it's 75%. 75% of all of the food needed for the family and for the farm on that property. And it's still farmed the same way. It's a handful of cattle and it's a handful of crops, and that's all you need. And in adverse times, that's all my family needed. The size of the family was the same then as the size of the family now. And you can produce 75% of what you need during adverse times. And we don't know what kind of adverse times we'll come to. There was a couple of other things I wanted to say. Oh, I think you'll hear that this property is like Neal's Landing, which is nearby. This property, the 205 North Wooddale Road, is surrounded on every side by agricultural, but just up the road from it is Neal's Landing, which is a big development. I doubt you guys heard much complaints about Neal's Landing when it was transferred from agricultural to non-agricultural. Neal's Landing is substantially different from this property. Neal's Landing, my mom says, was stopped being a farm World's Fair, so pre-1982, and it's on Asheville Highway, so it's on that development corridor. This is on Wooddale Road. It says, I noticed in your all zoning thing, it says 900 and something feet. You can tell from what Mr. Sullivan said, it's substantial. That 900 and something feet is not the development corridor. It's actually in that rural area, according to the East Knox County small area plan. So that's it. It's on a rural road. It's agricultural. We're losing it. Oh, and then one other thing I wanted to say is we share a valley with that land. So if they put 66 units on that land, the runoff from that, the laundry, the gasoline, the oil, all of that runs onto our property where our cows feed. So I don't want to eat the chemicals from that. And then we also have a well, and so that would tarnish the well. So we're very concerned about our way of life. We're very concerned about the agricultural land. We're obviously concerned, like everybody in East Knox County, about the how the growth goes, but we understand that growth is happening to Knoxville, and we support that. We just beg you to pay attention to the East Knox County Small Area Growth Plan, because it is how we feel, and I think it's a good guide. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Blakely. You did a very good job.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Kevin Murphy.
Joseph Bailey have definitely signed up to speak.
What is your name?
Joseph Bailey.
I don't have you down, but we can add you on here.
Thanks. Sorry. Thank you all. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the rezoning of 205 North Wooddale Road, parcel ID 62047. My name is Joseph Bailey. I live at 7714 Vista View Lane. I'm grateful to live in an area that is mindful of the importance of protecting our hillsides and ridges. However, I am concerned about the development occurring in the valley, mainly because of our floodplains and local wildlife. When major storms or heavy rain occur in Knoxville, the valley is where that water accumulates. We are fortunate to have so many trees because they are known for taking up thousands of gallons of water. Just one tree with a 30-inch diameter can take up 300 gallons of water. And even our native plants have extensive root systems that are well equipped to stabilize soil. Goldenrod roots, for example, can grow 11 feet deep. Unfortunately, the impervious surface in Knoxville is growing, as you can see in these aerial maps, and they're also included in your packets. As storm damage seems to be on the rise and hitting closer to home, like the recent Hurricane Helene, we will need some type of mitigation or the damage will devastate these communities that we are currently building. I know the demand for affordable housing needs to be addressed, but I wonder if we could incentivize developers to use old housing developments, abandoned construction or industrial sites, or even kudzu-infested areas where native plant communities have already been destroyed. I believe that would add more value to the Knoxville area than to have beautiful native landscapes sacrificed for housing. I live in Neal's Landing, where the development of the Ridge at Neal's Landing is already under construction, and 141 houses are currently being built. This subdivision is just below the Holston River and right next to Sinking Creek East. When flooding occurs, our community will need as many trees and native plants as we can get to mitigate flood waters. Grass may help to reduce sediment and stormwater, but it has shallow root systems that are only capable of taking up 0.14 inches of water per day. The property on North Wooddale Road provides the last open green space in our neighborhood, especially since the wooded area closest to Asheville Highway has already been zoned CA, a general business zone. The Wooddale Road property has a beautiful hillside with a native meadow full of goldenrod, ironweed, frost aster, and broom sedge. Meadows like this help filter and control floodwaters, support wildlife by providing a wide variety of food sources and habitats, and they are becoming increasingly rare in Knoxville. This meadow is surrounded by mature oak, hickory, and cedar trees, to name a few. These plant communities are ideal for wildlife, and as such, it is an incredibly active wildlife habitat. The removal of healthy ecosystems like this drive these animals to extinction. Trees and natural areas enhance the character and quality of neighborhoods. Within the Knox County Hillside and Ridgetop Protection Plan on page 29, it states that a combination of private and public open spaces are to be maintained, where forests are kept largely intact to foster wildlife and plant habitat protection, recognizing that open space systems can enhance neighborhood and community property values. The Knox County Conservation Subdivision Ordinance in Appendix F emphasizes the importance of resource conservation and the efficient use of land. It also promotes interconnected open spaces throughout communities, particularly for wildlife and habitat protection. In Appendix A, it states several studies indicate that to maximize increases in property values, open space systems should be linear, because such corridors have longer perimeters that allow a larger number of properties to abut or be near open space. And though I would personally love to preserve all 11 acres of this land for the benefit of wildlife alone, the statement got me thinking, could we try and reach a compromise for 205 North Wooddale Road by creating a conservation easement for the acreage closest to Neal's Landing? This would provide wildlife with the corridor, allow mature trees and native plants to support that wildlife, while mitigating excess water and add to the property values for current and future residents. I've drawn a suggested corridor that will preserve some of the existing meadow and the trees that surround it. Do you all have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
We appreciate it. Now we've got Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Kevin Murphy, 4508 Murphy Road. I realize 5 of you are new to commission and recently, and you've heard a little bit of mention of the East Knox Community Plan, but you may not know what that is. So a quick background on it. And it spun out of the approval of the Midway Business Park. There was a lot of negotiation, and then back when that was approved, Commissioner Dave Wright put a condition on the motion that they fund a small area plan for the Midway area. And so the county mayor actually spent $50,000 or more on consultants, and they actually built a small area plan for East Knox County. That plan had a lot of community input. There were ice cream socials, a lot of community involvement. And it generated a plan that if you haven't read it, it's great. It's got a lot of good stuff in there. That plan, when the new comprehensive land use plan was adopted, that plan is incorporated. There's specific language in there that says that East Knox Community Plan is still active and a component of it. So in your rezoning decisions, zoning ordinance actually does state that zoning amendments, which include map amendments, must be in harmony with and not conflict with the general plan and its components. So the East Knox plan is very much front and center here. Now, looking at that East Knox plan, there's a map that actually shows the East Knox area. And here, it shows something that would be called a development corridor along Asheville Highway. So that runs up and down the length of Asheville Highway from the western boundary over to the Carter area. And it's, they don't have parcel lines on there, and there's not an official, high-resolution map. But it's clear that that means along the corridor. On the other, just to the north of that development corridor are rural areas, and that's where there's a lot of community impact, input into what is rural. I want to read a couple. They actually we have questions about what is rural character, and in that they actually asked for input and captured it in the plan. And phrases like parks, winding country brooks, creeks and streams, community churches, open fields, community schools, historic structures, fields and farmland. Those are the those are rural character features that the community, those are the words and phrases they use to define this. So, if you look at the map, this this parcel doesn't access Asheville Highway. This is up past that, so it looks much more. It looks like it's in the rural area, and that would be the plan that really would help guide you on future rezoning requests like this. Finally, though, if you thought, well, this is in the development corridor, well, our plan, it says that development corridors should all have vision plans put together. And that's another area where we just failed to put a vision plan together for what the Asheville Highway corridor looks like. The community definitely wanted it. That was what the plan said was the next step, but that doesn't exist. I think if you wanted to say, well, this really belongs in the development corridor, you owe it to the community to actually have a vision plan put together. And this applicant owns a number of parcels in that area that they're looking for development for. They should really be putting a vision together, because right now the only thing in front of you is planned residential at a particular density, no conditions, nothing that will guide the development plan approval. And so while this is rezoning, if you don't put anything in there, remember, our development requirements in planned residential are on the floor. There's nothing that has anything to do about character, preservation of any environmental features, nothing. So what's in front of you doesn't fit the vision of the East Knox Community Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. And I want to make sure nobody else missed signing up. I just want to make sure. Okay, good. I want to give everybody a chance. Would you like to speak now?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Appreciate the opposition coming to voice their concerns. I'll try to hit as many as I can and then be here to open questions for you all or engineering. Site distance, certainly something we're concerned about as well. We have not had that verified yet, but that's something we would work with Knox County Engineering and Public Works to verify that, because there is a hill obviously up there. Water runoff, again, we cannot have more runoff than there is now, and the whole point of our detention ponds is to retain this water. TDEC is on top of that, Knox County Engineering and Public Works is on top of that, and so our engineers are on top of that, so we try to mitigate that from that standpoint. And we just feel that the location of this, the urban growth boundary that it's in, proximity to a grocery store, major employers, interstate, makes good, or 60 million units per acre would make sense, and so just request approval, please. And I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, or Director Snowden, can you talk about groundwater in this area?
Groundwater is one of those things we don't regulate that. State of Tennessee does. Oh, I'm sorry, stormwater? Yeah. And, you know, the applicant mentioned that. I mean, you know, our stormwater ordinance does require that the pre and post development flow rates are less than or equal to the, you know, what was coming off the site prior to. We retain up to the 100-year storm. You know, as far as anyone receiving negative impacts downstream, our stormwater ordinance and the requirements that we will enforce on the applicant will protect them from any negative consequence as it relates to downstream increased flow rates.
Can you talk about, do you know much about, I'm guessing this comes in later in the traffic study about the site distance on the hill?
Yeah, this one, Amy and I have talked about, we try to get a little more proactive on these. So I actually went out there. I looked at this site because that was one of our concerns. We wanted to know that on the front end. We looked, there is a significant vertical curve there that, no question, does restrict the line of sight across the curve. But it appeared to us that the applicant's property line extended to the point that they could install their access at the crest of that hill. And if done so, we felt like that they could safely access at that location. Obviously, we'd want to verify that, but it appeared based on the property information that we saw in the field that they could obtain safe access at that location.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, thank you.
I'll give you about
Okay, just
minute.
remember, about 10 days ago, we had snow. You're talking about putting your access road there, them stopping, coming out, but steep hill like this, both sides. You have 11 acres, about 66 houses eventually. That'll probably be over 100 vehicles. Imagine a day like we had with slippery roads. Or a lot of cars will be slipping and spinning, possibly going, you know, sliding to the ditch, or we're sliding into the oncoming lane when the other vehicle, the southbound vehicle, tops the hill. And then they got no place to go, either off the road or impact. So I think that would be a terrible place to put the access road.
Thank you. Are you done, Commissioner Jay? Okay. Would you like to respond? Okay. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I first want to say that when we updated our growth map and we created the comprehensive land use and transportation plan, we went into it doing the very best that we could, and we knew that the outcome would not be perfect. I believe that this is one of those scenarios where the land use classification in the growth map isn't perfect. I do strongly support that East Knox Community Small Area Plan. It was probably one of the most well-attended, even though it is a little bit dated. But in my opinion, I would like to honor every single person that showed up and really supported and stood for the rural character. We're losing that. When you look at the landscape of development across Knox County, especially in our rural areas and those that are in agricultural areas, it's not so much about, well, no one's farming it. They're not going to farm it anymore. That seems to be the excuse that I hear for the rezonings. When we should be looking at, there are multiple allowed uses in zonings. Just because they're requesting a zone doesn't mean that they have to put single-family residential with higher density in these areas. Also, because we allow clustering, even though you get a lower density sometimes in these areas, they're clustered together. And so when you look at the landscape, it doesn't look rural anymore in character or form. And so I just cannot support the staff recommendation, Planning Commission's recommendation on the density on this one. I feel like the current zoning is appropriate. I feel like there are multiple uses for really great development that would align more so with this area. And so I will be voting no.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I have a few. Director Snowden, how wide is Woodall Road?
You know, I measured that too when he was out there. It's really wide. Well, I say really wide. It's probably 24 feet at Asheville Highway, and then slowly, obviously tapers down once you get away from it. It probably is in the neighborhood of 19 to 20 feet. Don't remember the specifics, but as far as the width up to and through their property lines or property boundary, I didn't feel like that the additional traffic they would add would create anything unsafe. There were some shoulders that we might need to look at, but as far as road width itself, we felt like it was adequate for the location.
So that could go with the traffic impact study?
Yes, ma'am.
For the shoulders. Do you know off the top of your head what the speed limit is on that road?
I'd say it's posted 30. Gentleman out there may know, he probably drives it more than me, but.
Is it 30?
20 each way on the hill.
20 on the hill, okay.
Yeah, that.
Like anywhere else, they don't say the speed
Yeah,
limit.
Well, no, nobody does. So.
Yeah, we probably, that Hill Blocks view sign, we probably do, that's an advisory speed, so it's a warning sign. It's not per se enforced, it's a warning and not a regulatory sign, but yes, we do have a 20-mile-an-hour advisory speed.
Would that be a good place to put a one of the flashing lights for the hill? Doesn't really have anything to do with this one right now, but I'm just saying maybe that could be something that could be looked at
I mean,
too.
we could look, I'd want to look at the sight distance across the hill a little bit more. I was more focused on the sight distance for the intersection,
Yeah.
but yeah, we could definitely look at that.
Maybe look at it. So I'm big on my community meetings when I do, and I don't really have big developments in my district because I'm pretty built out. So I don't get the joys that some of these other ones get. But when we have something that's going to change my community, we have a meeting about it. Did you guys have a meeting with the neighbors?
Commissioner Oster, I apologize. I'm trying to catch myself up with this one. I have not met the neighbors. I believe they're in talks right now with Mr. Davis to meet. He's out of town. He had to go out of town last minute. So no, ma'am.
Okay. And you haven't had a meeting, Commissioner Thompson? Okay. Because we got a lot of emails.
Unless did I miss a phone call or email from you all? I don't believe it. I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but we got a lot of emails on this, and we've got a lot of people signed up. So I would say my meetings, and they're not even for big developments, and I end up with about 70 or 80 people at my meetings. So I would say you guys will probably get a good-sized meeting on that. So I don't know if this is not something that maybe needs to be postponed until an actual community meeting's had. I'm not making that suggestion right now. They have mentioned the conservation easement. Have you and Mr. Davis discussed the opportunity for that?
We have, and we need to meet with, I believe it's Mr. Bailey. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Yes, we need to meet with him. I think Mr. Davis too. I hate to speak for him, but not super privy to what exactly entails a conservation easement. Is that just strictly a grant? Can we use it for utility easements if need be? A lot of that I think we need to work out before I can commit to that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Director Snowden, I'm sorry to keep putting you on the spot, but on this one, how many ponds do you think would be needed on this?
I haven't looked at it real closely, but I would assume, just looking at roughly the topography, I would think at least two detention ponds.
Okay, all right. I'm a little, I'm just gonna make this comment for Commissioner Thompson, just so he knows where I stand, and so do you. I really am not comfortable voting on this tonight, because I do feel like that there needs to be a community meeting. That's just how I feel about it, and that's just kind of where I'm standing. So that's my thoughts about it. So, thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I tend to concur with you, Ms. Oster, or Commissioner Oster. I'm very uncomfortable that you've not spoken with neighbors, especially because sometimes there's room for compromise, and 6 is a big ask. I mean, that's just flat out a big ask, especially given the character of this rural character of this area. So I might strongly suggest that maybe a little more homework is done on this before it's voted on, but that's just a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am. We'll be open to a 30-day postponement because I personally have not integrated myself with this project yet, and so I'm more than happy to do that and meet with Commissioner Thompson too and the neighbors. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Thompson, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, I know.
I do appreciate the emails and the feedback that we received, and so this one, going back to the East Knox community plan on the campaign trail, I became very acquainted with this very quickly, mostly because if you don't acknowledge it, you're going to end up kicking the proverbial hornet's nest, and yes, the pun intended, because it is in the Carter community. But anyway, yeah, get it? Yeah, okay. Anyway, this particular piece, I think appreciate Jennifer bringing this up. This one is very different from Neal's Landing, and when you're looking at the rural area of this, and this here, this is a picture of what Neal's Landing is currently built out at 5.6. So that would be kind of that 6 units an acre. When we got into talking about the Midway Business Park, the compromise with the community, because there was a lot of opposition about a business park going in here, so there were a lot of compromises and promises made. And granted, none of us were in office when those promises were made, but it was promises made by the county to the residents. And as Commissioner Frazier said, those promises should be honored. There was a lot of public engagement, and I handed out a map that showed some of the developments that are here. And if you look at this one, it's not on Asheville Highway. It's not in the development corridor. And being out, if this were tied to Asheville Highway, like Neal's Landing, and Neal's Landing even has a phase 3 that's about to, that I'm assuming is going to Planning Commission now. That's all appropriate. It's tied to Asheville Highway. It's right there. I know you mentioned the grocery store. There's one grocery store on Asheville Highway. It's a Food City. There aren't any other grocery stores through there unless you go to like a Family Dollar or something like that. It's just Food City. Planned residential zoning in its current form, with its, I guess, lack of vision in the scope of the East Knox plan, really doesn't fit. It doesn't fit here. Like I said, they were made a lot of promises. The folks in Neal's Landing and on Breakwell Road are kind of dealing with some flooding and stormwater management issues. There's no vision for that area. Now, on that map, you can see that the applicant has rezoned several tracts, and they're all tied to Asheville Highway. This one is not. And so with planned residential up to 6 units an acre, that to me doesn't have any rural character to it at all. Wooddale Road is not an arterial road. It's not a collector road. It's not a main highway. It's just a little local street. And so since it's not supported by the East Knox Community Plan, which is part of our general plan, it was incorporated in Advanced Knox. I appreciate Madam Chair's thought in postponement. With the lack of outreach from the applicant, to me, the community has obviously been very well aware of it. I'm not in favor of postponement. I would like to just go ahead and make a motion to deny the rezoning. And thank you.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson and a second by Commissioner Frazier and Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a substitute motion to just postpone for 30 days for the reasons that we have people interested in a conservation easement, but would like to sit down. The applicant has said, give us a little bit more time, we'd like to sit down. We've got a community that wants to engage on this, and we want to promote that. But to then shut it down and say, we don't like it, and we don't want to give you that opportunity, I just think it sort of cuts down some of the core principles of what we want neighborhoods and engagement on land use to look like. And if it comes back and it doesn't look any different and nobody's made any headway, then I think we're right back in the same spot, and you can deny all you want. But I feel like if we value that we want people to sit down together, give them a chance to sit down together. So I'm going to make a substitute motion to just postpone for 30 days, and if we end up back in the same spot, so be it.
I got a substitute motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay, second by Commissioner Hill. We will vote on the substitute motion first. All in favor of the substitute?
Is there room for discussion on the substitute?
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't see your light still on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like with the community plan, there was intentionality with what they wanted the community to look like. It was codified in advanced Knox. It was part of the plan. And I feel like there's been opportunity. There was outreach from other applications, from the same applicant in other rezonings, with less opposition. And I don't feel like the outcome is going to be any different 30 days from now than it is right now. And I think the community has already spoken. So that's my stance on it. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a substitute motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay and a second by Commissioner Hill to postpone for 30 days. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, all opposed?
Nay.
All right. But no, it didn't pass.
Can
I think there was 3
Madam Chair,
yeses.
can we have a roll call on that,
Yeah,
please?
we can do a roll call.
Commissioner Rawls,
Aye.
Commissioner Darrett,
Aye.
Commissioner Oster,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
No.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
No.
Commissioner Thompson.
No.
Commissioner Fox.
No.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier.
No.
All right, it passed 6-5. So this is on you guys now. You've got to set that meeting up with the community, let the community know that you're having the meeting, and if you guys can't come to an agreement in 30 days, we're back here and you pretty much know where the district commissioner stands. So, thank you. Next item.
It's number 15, 11-M-24-RZ is a request of Masana Investments LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR Plan residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Properties located at 6209 Hammer Drive, parcel ID 072057, part of, in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. Applicant?
Yes, ma'am. Drew Staton, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville, Tennessee 37939.
Okay. We do have 2 in opposition signed up for that. So would you like to speak to your item first? No? Okay. Yeah, I got you this time. Mr. Munger. Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 5 dwellings per acre because it is consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan, subject to 1 condition.
Thank you. If you'll state your name and county residence for the record, you've got 5 minutes.
My name is Lee Munger. I live at 6401 Hammer Road here in Knoxville, in Knox County. What is going around is a petition signed by 14 of the 18 homes on Hammer Road. I will note that the 2 of the homes that were not included on that are owned by the seller of the property on this file. Another one is a non-English speaking household. And the 4th one, the gentleman is here also in opposition to this. This petition also includes 2 houses on Pine Grove and the house on the corner of Hammer and John Sevier, who happens to be one of your own county officials. This petition requests that you stop the 5 home per acre development on Hammer Road. And as I mentioned, this is 17 homes in that area. That's 81% of the homes in that neighborhood. There's 31 signatures there that do not want this development. I'm going to ask you guys, are you listening to your residents? Because that's a pretty stout percentage. On my own behalf, I understand that there's more housing needed, but this kind of development is going to devalue our neighborhood. Currently, those 18 homes are on a minimum of 1 acre per household. Most of them on 1.5 or more. So my question to the staff is, how is 5 homes per acre consistent with what that neighborhood is currently? Because 5 homes per acre does not match 1 home per acre. Also in staff's report, they said that the road is 17 feet wide. That's at the mouth. Further down the road where this development's going to happen, it's closer to 14 feet wide. There's also no hydrants. We're seeing what's happening in California when you don't have water and there's fires. I mean, we had them in Gatlinburg a few years ago, right? So if you do approve this, I request that some of these considerations be taken into account. The last remaining point that I have is we still in the community have not had any communication from the potential buyer or the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge. Oh. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Hodge. I apologize. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jamie Hodge. I reside at 6303 Hammer Road. My concerns about rezoning this property is that it's not consistent with advanced Knox. As you can see in that map up there, that property is rural conservation and it overlaps with hilltop protections. There's a lot of wildlife in this area. There's obviously it's in close proximity to the river, but there's also a significant creek that runs through there, and as well as a pond. And so we have a lot of wildlife in that area that kind of depend on this land to be able to access those water features. The most pressing concern that I have is that Hammer Road is a dead-end road. And it's very narrow, as Lee had mentioned. We have a lot of factories on John Sevier Highway, a lot of tractor trailers in that area, and they occasionally turn down Hammer Road, and there is no place for those trucks to turn around. I work from home, I sit in front of the window, and so I'm seeing these vehicles, and they have to literally back all the way down to John Sevier. I had read on the Advanced Knox website that it was the planning process used to define a vision to guide growth, land use, transportation, economic prosperity, and quality of life in the county for years to come. The adopted plan is the first integrated land use and transportation plan in Knox County. It is supported by data and was built on the values, needs, aspirations of people throughout the community. So if we're not following this plan that the commission voted into place, then what's the point of having this plan at all? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Did you sign up to speak, sir? Well, come on up. I'm not going to let you just sit out there since you came all the way up here. If you'll give your name and address for the record, please.
Alan Holloway, 6109 Hammer Road.
on this piece of property, there's a lot of wildlife on it and everything, but that ain't one bad thing. That land is full of rock. On Hammer Road, they don't have sewer line. Not a regular sewer line, they got a pressure sewer line. So if you hook up all those houses there, they're not gonna park, the land ain't gonna park for all them houses, so they're gonna have to have the sewer line. All right, the sewer that they got running through there is high pressure. Everybody that lives on Hammer Road is septic tank. All right, and I understand that if you get to plug into the sewer for Hammer Road, you have to have a pressure pump, a crusher, and and check valves and all that to keep that stuff from pushing it back in through your house. All right, the road's not wide, as everybody says, and some cars come up through there 40 mile an hour, and it's just 20 mile an hour speed limit. So it's really not wide enough for two cars in most places. And then the runoff, where all that rock on that property is, the runoff, the water runoff on it, floods Jerry's and Tracy's house right across right down the road there from them. Every time it rains hard, it floods. So once they put all that asphalt and all that concrete down, what's it going to do about all that water then? That's going to wash Tracy's and the house off their foundation. I mean, you know, I just, and 3 or 4 years ago, here y'all come in here and took a 70-acre farm and put a big old commercial building in it. And 2 miles down the road, we got a industrial park there. You know, y'all taking all the farmland away from all us over in East Knoxville. So, I mean, I just personally think that it's crazy to take any of the, what we've, all of our lives, you know, had, and then to tear it apart. So, you know, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
Thank you for coming down. Anybody else out there? I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. Questions? Drew, would you like to respond?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I sincerely apologize if we missed the first gentleman that spoke, but we've reached out to several neighbors, had several conversations, are working out things with several of them. So again, if there's disconnect, my apologies. And so I want to clarify that. Let's see, we agreed with planning staff before we went to planning commission to improve Hammer Road up to the subdivision to make that up to par for the increased traffic. I believe we're in the urban growth boundary, right next to John Sevier, which is a major arterial. And we have not had a collective meeting with neighbors, but I'd like the board to know that that's not always as beneficial. When there's more than 4 or 5 people, it's difficult for it not to become an attack on us. And so, not an excuse, but sometimes it's a little bit easier. And one of these neighbors, I will not name them, after the planning commission meeting, pulled me aside and cussed at me. And so we have very little inclination to continue conversations when we're treated like that. So, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. That's where it's good to have your commissioner there too, though. Kind of
Yes, ma'am.
keep it in line a little bit. Director Snowden, what is the road width on, the one gentleman was saying about 14 feet, but
Yeah, I think he's referencing the staff report, and I think it says 17, but I agree with him. It's probably 17 there near John Sevier, but the further you get, based on what I'm seeing, it is probably in that 14 to 15 foot range. The condition that engineering would require of the applicant, if approved, would be to widen it 20 feet, to have 2 10-foot lanes the entire length, at least up to their frontage, of course.
okay. Okay. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Brooks, what is the maximum density in a rural conservation area? Is it 2?
Up to 5.
Oh, it is up to 5, okay.
But it also stipulates that the play stop requires leaving at least 50% of the property as open space. the rural conservation place type requires leaving at least 50% of the property as open space.
Commissioner Thompson.
I was just looking at this because on this particular road, it'd be the first of its kind. And particularly at 5 units an acre, that would be very out of character for this particular road. And I understand where engineering's come from. If you widen the road and it dumps out on John Sevier, it'd be very applicable, but there's probably eight houses, 9 houses between John Sevier and Hammer Road that would essentially lose a significant portion of their front yards and have a sewer put in, and that just seems kind of odd. Is there a particular backstory? I'm assuming you all have an option to purchase the
Yes, sir.
property with the rezoning.
Yes, sir.
What made this particular piece of property appealing for you all, given it does have some pretty drastic contour lines towards the back end, and like the gentleman said, there's a lot of rock.
Yes, sir. I think just, part of our job, that's what we do for a living, is to speculate, and we feel like this is a strong growth area. That's pretty much all there is to it, and being so close to John Sevier, we figure to be a strong area.
Okay.
Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Drew, with the 50% open space requirement, is that something you're considering when you look at this property? Because I do understand, while I understand that it is in the urban growth boundary, with the rural conservation, that is part of the place type. And is that in your plans if you were in fact to receive this zoning?
Yes, ma'am. So we understand that's part of the place type. At this early on in the stage, we don't have a concept plan, but we get out with our rulers and do on our own. But yes, we have taken that into consideration. Yes, ma'am.
So and I know you just said that there is no concept plan or anything like that. If you were awarded up to 5 units an acre, I mean, we are looking at like very densely packed housing on half of this property. So is that a feasible development?
I'm sorry, what part of that is feasible? Sorry.
Are you looking at doing townhomes or things like that as
Here-
opposed to single family? Because again, at 5 units an acre, with a 50% minimum open space requirement, it's fairly dense in half of it.
It's hard for me to tell you now, but personally, I don't know if townhomes would do the best here, just given the character of the area. So my gut would say that single family is probably most applicable here, regardless of the place type.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate the comments that have been made with respect to this already by my colleagues. And something else I want to point out about rural conservation is, just because you can have up to 5, this is not necessarily a residential place type. You can have that, but here's what it says. It says in growth areas, corridors and pockets of rural conservation indicate places that may be subject to development similar to the adjacent place types, but were more compact, and here's the key phrase, and low impact site design is expected. If you're keeping 50% of this open, you're going to have between 9 and 10 dwelling units per acre on 10 acres. That's not low impact. That's much higher impact than the adjacent place types. And really my point about this is, I thought this is where the work that the government officials did on the advanced Knox established, already what should be done in this particular area when it made it rural conservation. So, and in order to keep people from constantly going down and saying, hey, well, I want to have an exception here, I want to have an exception there, buying property or wanting to sell property, and then making, coming down to government bodies and saying, well, please give me greater density so I can make more money off this. I thought Advanced Knox was supposed to stop that situation. But, here it is, it's cropping up again. And the boundary has already been drawn. You got suburban residential between this property and Hammer Road, but here, this property is rural conservation. And I think that given what is already established around it, with respect to how much development exists around it, it calls for the 2 dwelling units per acre. And so I don't want to cut off anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter, but I'm ready to make a motion that the zoning for any planned residential that takes place on this particular tract of land is limited to the default amount of dwelling units per acre, which is 2 per acre. And therefore, that was what this particular request would be limited to. In other words, the request is planned residential zoning up to 2 units per acre, and I would modify that, up to 5 units per acre, I would modify that to 2 units per acre.
Okay,
That would be my motion.
if you'll hold that motion, Commissioner Hill's got a comment.
Thank you. This is directed for Director Brooks. Is it my understanding that this is still owned and currently owns ag by the owner, ag by the owner. If this request is passed for planned residential, under the old rule, then when the property is sold, it is sold as planned residential, not commercial, rural commercial. Is that correct? Rural conservation, excuse me.
Commissioner, I'm not sure if I follow. Are you asking what the place type is today, or?
Well, right now it's zoned ag.
Mhm.
This owner, even though they have a representative, this owner is asking for a change from ag to PR.
Correct.
That PR would be under the old rules, under the old,
Well, no, planned residential is it's under our current rules, our current zoning rules for
Right.
PR.
but it would not be necessarily tied to the current, to our
Plan.
new growth plan.
It would be, yes. So when
So-
they come in for a development plan, they would have to comply with the comprehensive plan.
Right, so him asking PR at 6 per acre,
6, I think it was
5
5.
per acre, when he comes in, when they come back, they will have to comply with the new plan?
Correct.
Which is currently rural conservation?
They'll have to, we will evaluate their development proposal under the comprehensive
the
plan. So
new.
we will look at the rural conservation place type.
All right. Wow. Yeah, that's not gonna work. All right, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a point of clarification, you have an option to purchase the property, but, and you all are just the land developer, correct? You're not going to be the home builder,
On
correct?
this one, I'm actually not sure. Because
Okay.
we actually do a mixture sometimes, and I'm not sure right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Respectfully, Commissioner Fox, I appreciate your motion. However, I feel like the existing zoning is appropriate and aligns in form and character in this area. There's nothing in this area that is PR. Nothing. So when I look at the criteria that must be met for a rezoning amendment, I can't find a reason to support it. So I'm sorry, I can't support your motion.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I fell into the trap of conflating place type with zoning. And so, I concur with your statement. And so I therefore move to deny the zoning request.
Second.
Okay, somebody's going to have to tell me who was first. Shane? Okay, all right. So we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fox to deny with a second by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, please. Well, it's, I mean, it's,
We're sitting here for 3 hours.
we've been here.
Item number 16 is 4-0-24-RZ, request of William Dale Roten from A Agricultural to RB General Residential. Properties located at 611 West Governor John Sevier Highway, parcel ID 137-14401 in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant, Mr. Roten? Hi. If you'll come up and give your name and address for the record, please.
It's William Dale Roten and 4315 French Road, Knox 37920.
Thank you. And we do have one in opposition, so I'm going to have Director Brooks read, and then you will have 5 minutes for your part, and then the opposition will have time. Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RB General Residential Zone because it's consistent with the sector plan and a minor extension of the zone with revision of condition number 1 to extend the Type B landscape screen from the existing vegetation on the eastern boundary to the northern boundary of the parcel.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Roten, would you like to speak to your project?
I can't let him speak first, can I?
No, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I guess I need to. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak again. The RB zoning that, of course, the Knox Planning Commission has approved, and I was here before a couple months ago, as most of you know, and y'all asked me, of course, we went through the RB zoning, was approved by not a unanimous decision by the committee of 13-0 through the planning, and also the senior staff who I've spoken with several times since then, and they were consistent with the sector plan and the growth plan, et cetera. And all these properties are along there, and I thought you would have it, you do have it up there. All these properties up there surrounding this, 15 of them, are all zoned RB, except for the one property. There's 6 across the street that's adjacent to it, and all RB. On the side along Johnsville Highway, they are 8, 7 are zoned RB. 1 has never been attempted to be rezoned, so they're 100% of all the surrounding properties for RB zoning. Therefore, I would like to say that that's why I'm requesting for this to be RB zoning. Y'all requested last time that I exercise and take the 2 lots down to 1 lot. I don't really know exactly why, but I had the Sam and Mike Reynolds look at this, talk to the BZA, and I did that. I had my, I don't know if y'all have those maps. Did you get the maps? Anyone get the maps other than you? Well, I had, where's Miss Stiles? Is she here? She was supposed to have laid out one for everyone. I'm sorry, I brought several.
I think that's the one that we got in email. Yeah, we got it in email.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
It was the map that they had, that they dropped the line, had the surveyor drop the line, and then, the dotted line, of course, was just the little portion above that the house is now sitting on that's going to be torn down, because the power's even been disconnected because it's really, really bad shape unless you just renovate it totally. So, that was done, signed and delivered, and had to have, of course, several weeks to get that done. But that is done, and the proposal is still the same, though. The .89 acres, a large plot to be zoned RB, and the line is now, it's only 1 lot, but still the same zoning will be for .89 acres of RB zoning. Again, in conclusion, everything around this property is zoned that way. I know they're not all like that at the time, but there will be development there. It's right along John Sevier Highway. The site view is absolutely 1,000+ feet any way you look. It's got a turning lane. It's got the easement is already there that was put there by TDOT for this property. It's also got an easement on the back or an entrance on the back with the tile already there for the county roads. So it's really just laid out well to have some condominiums there. So I ask for the RB zoning and appreciate your vote in that way.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We've got one in opposition, is Mr. Mike Brown. If you'll state your name and county of residence, please, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Mike Brown, for the record, with the South Dolan Area Homeowners Association. And I live at 7320 Twin Creek Road. It's a tongue twister in Knoxville. This map doesn't show what you really need to see, but you should have this small map in your packets that you got originally. The reason I say that is because that map there does not show you the right-of-way for John Sevier Highway as it pertains to this particular piece of property. I'd like to point out some factors regarding Mr. Roten's request, and I'd like to address these following things. Number one, his claim that this is an extension of RB zoning. He made a comment a while ago that it's everything around it's RB zoning. Well, everything around it is not RB zoning. You see 2 pieces there. Everything else that's yellow up there is green agricultural. It is not RB zoning. Everything. This RB zoning it's a product of the 60s, and it's just basically a general zone. I mean, it can mean anything, up to 13 units per, or 12 units per acre, or whatever. But it's really totally not apropos here in this situation. Number 2, he claims that he's purchasing, which you can't see unless you've got your little map here, that little mobile home that's sitting up there and that's squeezed into that corner. I hope you have it, because if you don't, I'll pass this around where you can see it. He says he's buying that trailer mobile home so that he can add to his property. But you should have also in your package, should have received today a message from Mr. Randy Barnes, who owns that particular mobile home, which he says he absolutely has no desire or plans to sell that mobile home to anybody. Now, Mr. Roten claims he has a joint easement on the west end of this property from John Sevier up to Abner Cruz. Again, you need to have your little map there to see he has a joint easement up to the John Sevier Highway easement, which is 4 feet from the back of that trailer. He does not have access all the way up to Abner Cruz Lane. Let's look at the buildable land after taking off the 35-foot setbacks for John Sevier, Abner Cruz, the 12-foot setbacks from the east side of this property. If you add that up, multiply it out, that's 25,128 square feet. You know how many is in an acre? I'll tell you what's in this 1.1 acre that he has is 48,884 square feet. So you take your 25 and look at your 48, over half of this property he owns here is going to be in easements, setbacks. He cannot build anything on that much of the property. A while ago, well, 2 or 3 times it's been mentioned today, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Durrett. 6 to the acre is very extreme. 5 to the acre was extreme. His proposal, well, here he told me first from 6 to 9. How do you get 6 to 9 on less than a half acre of buildable space now? It's not possible unless you stack it up one on top of the other all the way up. John Sevier Highway is supposed to be widened. It's on the books right now for 2032. But There's talks in the works, and Mr. Snowden can verify this, that we're trying to get that moved up earlier. If they widen, or when they was, it's definite, it's gotta be widened. When they widen it, 9 times out of 10, what are they gonna do? Buy more easement, right? If they took another, just 12-foot lane, which those are on Johnsonville Highway, just took a 12-foot lane more along that strip, that's another 5,232 feet, cutting down more on a potential buildable space. And I totally encourage you to take that into consideration, that is going to happen. I mean, I can almost guarantee you, and I think Mr. Snowden would agree, that is going to happen.
Mr. Brown, I'm sorry, you're out of time.
Well, just 1 minute.
Real quick, yeah.
At most, our stance is that no more than 2 units should be put on this particular piece of property. There should be a screen put along Johnsonville Highway, and the planning staff has already recommended that on the east side of that property, there's a screen about halfway up now. It must be completed all the way up to Avenue Cruz. Why? Because it's ugly, or it's going to be ugly. They want to shield it from the residents around. If you stood under the bridge there at Johnsonville Highway and looked east, you don't see anything but single-family homes. A lot of them are very nice on big lots, not half-acre lots, not acre lots, but big lots. That's all you see. And here, this is like a condo or clusters here would just be aesthetically out of place. I thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Roden, you may respond.
The map is there. There are easements, there are 2 easements already laid out by TDOT on access to this lot. One, I have a signed agreement on his part, he's talking about down there, but secondly, there's a total easement. I wouldn't even use that easement, but the total easement is here laid out, and the gravel is there. But the easement was prepared initially by the developer, and Ms. Snowden knows this, by TDOT. And the road is there. They put it in. They have the drainage and everything else there. All I did was nothing. Just put some gravel and keep it from mud. It was there. For as, I don't recall, there's several other things he said. The easements are figured in here. I had this map. This is a survey of, it's now 1 acre lot. It was 0.89 acres, but y'all asked me to put it together. And the easements are there. I mean, it was done by Rowan's Engineering and sent and approved by your committees to get signed off on by, I think Mr. Snowden was one of the ones that signed off on the roads. But anyway, it's a proper map. And if you want to see it, you're more than welcome to. It should have been sent to you. Does anyone want to see this? Thank you for your time. I just wanted to say that it's not true.
Well, I do have a question for Mr. Roden.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Roden, so the last time you came here, you had 2 tracks, and what you did is you created a survey to put them together, and it equals 1 acre now.
Yes.
Okay, previously it was 0.89 and
That's correct.
0.12 or something like that.
That's correct.
Now it's one unified tract of land.
That's correct.
Okay, and what you're saying is already accounted, the right-of-way is already accounted for
Yes.
in your survey map.
Yes, that's correct.
And the 1 acre that you're wanting to develop on, that takes into account the right-of-way, and you still have an acre left?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And now,
But the proposal by Knox Planning was the 0.89 acres. That's what they approved. So that's what I'm asking for on this other, on the zoning for RB is the 0.89 acres. The other part up here, my understanding, we spoke with BZA. They said with this house sitting on the easement, that I would have to, to tear it down, that they would take care of that through that avenue. So I don't know what they meant by that, but that's what they told me, that's what Mike Reynolds talked to them. So I'm assuming that's.
so now, okay, just to clarify, there's a house actually sitting
on
your tract of land.
That's correct.
It was sitting on the little tiny tract,
That's
but it's been
correct.
added, and it's an old dilapidated house
That's
that
correct.
has been there and you didn't want to go to the expense of tearing it down unless you could go forward with all this. And that's in my opinion, an eyesore from John Sevier Highway. What's your opinion?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And then the trailer beside, and he said, the trailer beside, he's tried to, it is so small, this lot, that if the trailer comes down, he can't rebuild because it is so small on itself. So I did say if you want the trailer moved or me move it, I would buy this lot just for the vision because you can't do anything with it. He can't put anything back on this trailer. And you're talking about an eyesore, it's just as bad an eyesore as a house. And I would definitely put up trees to box that out. And also, he is correct about the trees along the side. The planning commission required that for RB zoning as well.
And I saw on that map that it actually encroaches on your tract of land slightly, the trailer?
It's on me, it's on my land. It's not only on the easement, it's actually a couple feet on my land. Yeah.
Okay.
But, so,
All right, thank you, Mr. Roden.
thank you.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Roden, what do you haven't yet told us what you intend to do with this.
I would like to put some condos on it.
You'd like to put some condos on it? And how many units? Can you come up to the podium?
Well, all the RB zoning.
Can you come up to the mic,
It's up
please?
to, of course, 0.89 acres, put up to 9, but I can't get 9 on there, but I'd like to make it look nice. The 0.89 acres will be about 9, but I would put to make it look nice, I mean, 2-bedroom condos, and tear the house down and try to box out the old trailer, because it's an eyesore.
Okay.
There's 2 eyesores right now that I have to box.
Okay, thank you. I might have some more questions, but I'll come back.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, in my understanding, that you said that trailer is an eyesore, is it currently occupied?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and how long have you been trying to purchase that trailer?
For about, I mentioned it to the customer about a year ago.
Okay. Now, is it the trailer, or I see there's an addition, there's a barn or garage. Is it?
White house is probably what you're seeing.
Okay, the White House, not the trailer, but the White House is, okay,
That's on this beach.
okay. Because I remember back of this, it's been several months, you talked about maybe 7 units and then a condo. Is it for family, or are you wanting to, are you?
Yeah, I can't, not gonna do it all at the same time. I mean, I'd love for it to be, but I can't do it all at the same time because it's gone up about 40% since we talked, building.
Right. Now, I'm just trying to figure out because I guess sort of wanting some clarity, because when we first talked, it was 7 units and it was for family, and then maybe townhome, and then a condo, and then, looking at the
Well,
trailer, but then the trailer's occupied
Well,
and
the trailer's
not
never
wanting
been-
to
The
sell.
trailer has never been part of this.
Okay.
It's never been part of this property. He can't use the trailer if it's ever torn down. It had a tree on it one time.
Okay. But it's currently occupied.
It's currently occupied.
I'll tell you why he keeps it if you want to know.
Hold on.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to read into the record the email that we all received from the property owner that is occupying the mobile home. He says, deny rezoning, adjacent trailer remodeled to a house and is not for sale. Visible neighborhood is all residential homes. Future widening of John Sevier Highway and backup condos to face Abner Cruz are issues.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, I'll turn this over to District Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My position on this, and I make a motion, first I'll make a motion, Madam Chair. I make a motion that we approve this rezoning request, and then I'd like to engage in discussion if I get a second on that.
Okay. All right, so we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fox with a second by Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my position on this is that just like I opposed placing high density, what I consider to be high density, at least with respect to the surrounding territory, housing on Tipton Station Road, which was related to the issue we discussed earlier, because you're putting something out of place in there. This is the flip side of that coin. Here, he is wanting to have the same zoning as basically most of the parcels around him. And I see no reason not to give that to him. It doesn't matter when it was granted. It exists. And I want to point out, it's not just the RB zoning directly adjacent to him, but if you go to the left, to the west, you see greater or less than 4 dwelling units per acre, but actually the density is far higher than that because there's vacant land, some vacant land, and so it's like condos, I believe. If you do an aerial view of that particular, I'm sorry, yeah, you got to go a little bit farther west. You can't see it from there, but that's where the Wild Acres Way condos are. So they're about the same density as what he's proposing. And then if you go, of course, to the right, you see that 8 dwelling units per acre, 7 dwelling units per acre, and you can't, as you see John Sevier Highway go up to the northeast, that's actually 18 dwelling units per acre. That was a apartment building that was, or zoning that was granted within the past couple of years. So there's a lot of high density housing in this area. It's along a corridor, and also, as we learned a few months ago, traditionally the north side of Governor John Sevier Highway is higher density than the south side. And that's because the growth boundary used to end at John Sevier Highway. So it's a natural place to put higher density housing because that's what has been granted. If you take a really broad, wide view, you can see that. So anyways, that's why I believe this is the Planning Commission's decision should be supported. And I ask that you vote yes on this motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very confused as to why just a number of months ago, I understand your premise, Commissioner Fox, of north side versus south side, but this is, John Sevier Highway is a major corridor, and you fought tooth and nail against something almost exactly similar 2 miles up the road that had even more buffer and more scenic protection than this 1 acre sliver of land on the front, that is right on John Sevier. And I would like for you to go back into that map, whoever's controlling the map right now, to go back into that, maybe, Drew, corridor. For the 7 years nearly that I've been here, this commission, the last commission, the commission before that, and the very first commission I was part of, has constantly said, look, RB is the worst. It is the worst zone that we had and have. It can include single family, but on right now on this piece of property, you could have multi-family dwellings up to 12 units an acre. Mm-hmm. You could put mobile home parks, and then with a use on review, you could actually put up to 24 units. There's a reason that, yes, there may be RB, but this is very important to look at. There's also a reason that PR is more prevalent, because we've learned that PR is better than RB, and PR gives more ability to control a process that makes it look like everything else. And when you have a major corridor like John Sevier, you reserve development on a major corridor that attaches to a major corridor for major developments. You don't attach every single 5 feet to every little piece of land, and I can't imagine that TDOT would want more and more small connection points, because it's a big super corridor, and you don't want it. So I have never understood this one continuing to stay RB and not to, and if you zoom in even farther, I mean, this is, I've heard time and time again, it needs to be like the others, and single-family homes are much different than 12-unit, multi-dwellings and condos. So for all those reasons, I'm going to make a substitute motion to rezone this PR no more than 2 units with no access to John Sevier and only the entrance off Abner Cruz.
Second.
All right, so we've got a substitute motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay and a second by Commissioner Frazier. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Moyers, did Planning Commission consider PR? Or is that something that would have to go back to Planning Commission?
Yeah, if, and was PR considered?
It's been a while since it was considered by the planning commission, so I'm trying to remember. I honestly don't recall the conversation if PR was discussed. I'd have to go
Yeah,
back and watch the video.
If what was asked for and considered was RB and we're going to PR, then I think it would have to go back to the planning commission. That PR is a completely different zone with a whole lot of different requirements attached to it, so.
Okay, thank you, Director Moyer. The only reason I asked that was because I made this identical motion several months ago, and I was told that it would have to go back to Planning Commission. The only reason I bring it back up. So, okay.
I'm glad I was consistent then.
If you guys want to testify, come to the podium instead of yelling and whispering. Seriously, both of you guys. Yeah, but
The access road that you deny, it's already there. It's been approved by TDOT. It's there. The tiles are there. The road is there. The access road is there. It's not like it's got to be done. It is done. And for as the planning commission, they're the ones that recommend with this RB zoning around it told me to get this zoned RB. And that they said that the easements were a little smaller and they Mike Reynolds and Sam Hawk, I believe his name, said that this is what needs to be done. That's why I submitted this RB, and they unanimously 13-0 immediately, period.
okay, sometimes we disagree with them.
I understand that. I'm sorry, but you act like I didn't do this intentionally. If what you're saying, I'm just trying to get some condos for my children, probably, and it's a great place. I mean, there's 18 per acre right up there on the right. You just approved 8 per acre right across the street. And it's down in the gully. This has got the sewer there. It's got everything. Have you looked at this piece of property?
Yes,
It's
sir.
a beautiful piece of property. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Brown, do you want
Couple things. Regardless of what Mr. Fox says, this property is not mostly surrounded by RB. That's not the map there. Because you don't have this piece.
I mean, it's got RB, yeah, but it's got RB around it.
Well, where's this piece of property with Dick Ford Lane?
It's right there.
So,
Sorry, map. Second thing, you want to know why that Mr. Barnes keeps that piece of property? 2 reasons. He doesn't live there. He lives across the street on Abner Cruz. He rents this for income, number 1 reason. Number 2, which he likes the most, he has his own private access to John Sevier Highway. Mr. Roten does not have that access all the way through to Abner Cruz. He has it up to, as I mentioned earlier, up to the right-of-way, John Sevier Highway right-of-way line. That's as far as he owns. As far as Mr. Jay's motion, it could be done this way. You could go 2 to the acre and leave it agricultural, because you can put 2 to an acre on agricultural if you all vote for it.
thank you, Mr. Brown.
I'm going to pull back my
Mr. Jay?
substitute motion if there's, maybe somebody else wants to take a shot at it. I'm exhausted. We've been spending a year on an acre of land on John Sevier. I'm exhausted by this process.
Okay, where are we? Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to address, however, points that were brought up by Commissioner Jay. The reason that I opposed the development or the rezoning that you referenced, which was sought by Mezana, is it's 3,362 feet to the west of this. I'm sorry, it's actually a little bit farther than that, but it's a half a mile to 2/3 of a mile west of this property, and this property is about 2,000 feet west of Mountain Grove Shopping Center, and it's actually only about 1,700, so a quarter of a mile from the 18 units per acre apartment building. So this property is actually closer to all that high density kind of urban rural setting. I forget what you call it, town center setting, place type. It's much closer to that than it is to the rezone property that you're referencing, and that rezone property that you're referencing is only a few hundred yards away from the John Sevier historic home center residence. So that's what the opposition was from the community was, hey, this is just 100 yards away or 200 yards away, this subdivision that they want to put in from a rural historical setting, and we don't think it's appropriate to be that close. And it's much farther away and has a lot more agricultural land around it than the tract that we're talking about right here. This tract is still a part of that town center effectively because of the RB zone and because of the apartments, because of the other high density dwellings. And so there is a basis for drawing a distinction between my opposition to the development you're talking about and my support of this particular development. There are very good reasons for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Sorry, I was lost there. Thank you, Madam Chair. I go back to something Commissioner Jay said, that the zoning may be RB, but everything that's RB around it has one single-family home on it. The zoning might align, but the uses allowed in RB, like he said, it's up to 12 or up to 24 with the use on review. I kind of concur with this gentleman that ag is appropriate. It's adequate for this 1 acre parcel. So that's what I would like to see happen. So whatever the motion is on the floor, I will be, or I could offer a substitute motion to.
A substitute motion's open if you want to offer one.
I make a substitute motion to deny the request from ag to RB.
All right, we've got a substitute motion on the floor by Commissioner Frazier. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jay. All right, so we are now voting on the substitute motion to deny, tell me again.
Deny rezoning from ag to RB.
Okay, and we've got a second by Commissioner Jays. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. All right, could we do roll call, please?
Commissioner Darrett. Aye. Commissioner Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson.
Nay.
Commissioner Russell. No. Commissioner Hill.
No.
Commissioner Lee.
No.
Commissioner Thompson. Aye. Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay. Aye. Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Rawls.
Aye.
6-5.
All right, the substitute motion passes by 6-5. Commissioners, I'm going to take a poll and go by the majority of who would like to take a 5-minute break. I think I could use one, so we'll be right back. All right, we are back in session. Madam Clerk, if you will read the next item, please.
Item number 17, 11-B-24-PA is an appeal by Hunter Brewster of the Knox County Planning Commission's denial of a request for a comprehensive plan amendment from SR Suburban Residential and HP Hillside Protection to CC Corridor Commercial and HP Hillside Protection. Properties located at 3,000 Crenshaw Road, 6708 Ottinger Drive, parcel ID 147-105-10501 in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins?
Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for Hunter Brewster. Mr. Brewster is here as well and would like to address the commission
Okay,
on this.
thank you. We do have one signed up in opposition, so let me get Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends the County Commission deny the CC corridor commercial place type because it is inconsistent with the surrounding development and transportation conditions by a vote of 13-0.
Okay. Mr. Mullins, you have got 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'll be brief. This is 3.56 acres of property. Mr. Brewster owns this property. He lives on this property. It's zoned agricultural right now with the SR place type. He was approached by workers for the Enbridge Gas Company to allow them, these are transient workers, come in while they're working on the gas company. They usually have their own RVs. They have their own RVs, so they want to park somewhere so they don't have to spend money on a hotel while they're doing the work. He thought that was allowed in the agricultural zone. He looked at the definition of lodging and boarding house. Boarding house has its own definition. Lodging is not defined under the zoning ordinance. So he initially thought that was okay until he was later approached by codes and said, no, you can't do this. He then went to planning staff, talked to them about what he was wanting to do. They said this is transient mobile housing. And they recommended there's 2 zones that they thought, the staff member gave an opinion to him that might be welcome. The highway commercial, which is the only zone that specifically calls out the transient housing, and the transition zone was another consideration. He filed a rezoning for the highway commercial and then asked me to help him on this. We now got involved. He's not a developer. He lives on the property. We do think that, respectfully, that the planning commission could have and should have changed the amendment. The corridor commercial, there is corridor commercial further east on John Sevier Highway. There's changing conditions based upon the significant influx of transit workers that need someplace to park. This is a 122-mile natural gas pipeline. And absent affordable options for them, these transient workers would either, have to drive further into our, through our, and use our infrastructure to get to the location instead of being located there. So here, there's a place for affordable housing options with no infrastructure investment from the county whatsoever. I think there's also an option to send this back to Planning Commission for consideration of the SMR place type, which is one of the few place types that allows the transition zone. I thought the transition zone being something that allows considerations for uses that are compatible with adjacent residential areas, to allow types of commercial uses which are not major traffic generators, would be something that would be considered in all the zones. But the SMR is something that would allow it, and there is SMR in the vicinity as well. And it's not very different than the current SR place type, except it allows more diversity of housing. I'd like Mr. Brewster to address some of this as well. He can, I know, there's been a lot of talk about this, someone asking for, forgiveness instead of permission. That wasn't his intent. And I think he can probably fill in kind of what he wants, but the transition zone would allow this particular use to be looked at as use on review, and only that. That's the benefit from it. So with concerns about the appropriateness for the location, screening, things, what other uses could be done, the transition zone would potentially solve that. So I think that's something that would be an appropriate consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
If you will just tell us what you want to tell us.
Well, welcome. Thank you all for having me. Never been here before. Didn't really even know this even exists. Didn't know that I did wrong. So again, my apologies. I never tried to do anything against anybody or rules. I try to do the best we can with what knowledge I've got. I didn't realize that we were doing wrong. This property that I have, this is property I come home to from the hospital. It's been in my family since the 40s. My family's home had to be moved for Johnsonville Highway to be built. My grandparents reside on the property. I reside with my wife, or girlfriend technically, and my son. We live there. We don't plan to have no commercial business. We don't want anything loud, obnoxious, or anything crazy. This is temporary. It was never intended to be permanent, just to help the Enbridge Gas Company. Again, it never was intended to be upsetting. We don't want no commercial business on our property. We want quietness. We want chill. With having these people in the campers on our property, again, my grandfather, he's almost 80, says they can't ever hear anybody or see them. They come in, they leave super early in the morning. They come in after 6:30 in the evening, unless they're rained out. No impact to the neighborhood much at all. We want to address our community. I never really thought about having a meeting with our neighbors or our community. I didn't know really even how to do this. This is not what I've done before. I was in the body shop and the collision industry, so I fixed wrecked cars and stuff my whole life. Again, I want to ask for forgiveness. Again, I wasn't trying to be upset or trying to upset anyone. We were just trying to accommodate the need for Enbridge Gas Company. And again, it's temporary. We don't want anything permanent like such. Oh, I have no intentions to sell the property. I have no intentions to develop the property as far as any kind of other homes or duplexes or anything such. We don't want that. This is just temporarily. This project, hopefully it'll be done by June, July, August. They were hoping March. All the rainouts and stuff, it's not looking like it's able to do that. I know that you all are probably pretty fed up with me and you haven't got to hear from me, and I'm sorry. This is not what I do. I try to respect our community. Anybody up and down our street, if they ever need help, they reach out. We try to help anybody and everybody. If we're down to earth people. I'm not a big corporation. To answer you, I am the sole owner of AHB Enterprises. That is me. To represent and to have him to represent as well. I try not to cut any corners. I try not to do anything illegal. We try to do what's right. We try to do exactly what we say we're going to do. If I make an agreement or say I'm going to do it, I'll uphold it 100%. You've got my word on it. If there's anything we can do with the neighbors to make any kind of stipulations, or if there's anything we can do to make a compromise, if Mr. Fox would be interested in having to help hold a meeting with our community, I'm more than welcome to do it. I want to address anybody and everybody's concerns. If they would allow the campers, for this temporary stay, they'll be gone and we won't have this no more. I don't plan to keep it. Like I said, I plan to build a warehouse of some sort to be able to store my old cars. I've got a car collection. Again, if you can see, get in trouble for having a few old cars, but I've got a car collection, and my intention is to, maybe later down the road, build a building and put my stuff inside of it so y'all don't have to drive by and look at it.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you, Mr. Brewster. I appreciate you coming down here and talking to us and staying as late as we've been down here.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna let the opposition speak, and then you or Mr. Mullins can speak after.
Yes,
if you want to respond to anything.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
and then that way we can kind of do it that way.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you all
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. The speaker that we have, I believe, is Mr. Kaufman. Is that correct? Okay. Mr. Kaufman, if you will state your name and address for the record, please, and then you will have 5 minutes.
Evening, folks. Again, thank you for your time. I'm Steve Kaufman. I live at 6729 Audinger Drive. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you and the MPC recommendation and ask that you uphold their recommendation for denial. I speak for myself, but I would like to point out other members of the community who have spoken out against Mr. Brewster and what he has done on his property. I don't believe a word that he says. I will put it that way. And if you want to ask me later why, I'm more than happy to have that discussion with you. But if you look at the packet I just sent out, these are the comments that was left for the Metropolitan Planning Commission by members of the community that had a unanimous decision against this RV park that he has put on his property. When it was started getting brought to my attention, a fellow neighbor who wanted to remain anonymous and will remain
will remain anonymous because I will not speak his name, asked me if I knew what was going on. I did not. He had contacted the codes enforcement. Codes enforcement went out there and saw what Mr. Brewster was doing, a lot of grading work and getting this stuff set up for RVs. They told him to cease and desist on September 5th. He has not. At that time, he may have had 3, 6 campers, I don't know, because I'm not going to stand out in the street, potentially get hit from cars coming off of Crenshaw or Governor John Sevier to count the campers. He has over 20 to 30 there right now. He has so many that there is already a barn on his property, or the barn to his family. Mr. I can't remember his grandfather's last name off the top of my head. Already there. He has campers on that property packed so tight, it looks like it's a storage lot. He has campers behind this building that literally you can't do nothing but put one camper back there and you can't drive around it. And his comment that his grandfather can't see it, that is a farce. You can see it. I can see it from my property. I live on the opposite side of the road, well over a good distance from his property. If you look at those comments, the first one is from former Commissioner Carson Daly. Hunter went to him before this even took off, all right? That he even called Commissioner Daly this past summer and informed him that the RV park is not allowed. Brewster ignored all the requirements, all the engineering permits for grading codes and everything. Like I said, on September 5th, he was told by them to cease and desist. He has not. He continues to do that to this day, putting more gravel, dirt, whatever he can to fill in that valley. If you look down at Carla's comment, the big thing I pull out of there is the infrastructure. The entrance and exit to his property and where this RV park is not good for the area. For the transit workers, there is plenty of resources in and around Knoxville and Knox County. There is an RV park just around the corner, all right, on Martin Mill Pike. A 20-minute drive, or 20 minutes away, 20 miles away, a 23-minute drive, which is not is not uncommon for area residents of Knox County to get to and from work, is up off Raccoon Valley. There are 2 large RV parks up there. They can be up there and get down there quickly, all interstate. They don't have to worry about any traffic lights. Then the other question they say they're going to try and address is, after these workers and trailers leave, what's next? What's going to happen next to that property? If it's rezoned, he could put another business there. He owns another piece of property, and it's in there on Topside Road. It's sitting vacant right now, where he said he worked on cars. It's sitting vacant. He hasn't worked on cars there. If he wants to store his classic cars, great, he can store them there. I got a classic car. I've got 2. One's a daily driver. All right? He can store them there. He's already got a building there to store them. He wants those trailers there. He wants to help out these transit workers. That's fine. He has a property on Topside Road. He can help them folks over there, but not in our quiet neighborhood and what's going on and all that. But also, I'd like to say, that, and end with this, with a few seconds that I have left. All right. The MPC unanimously denied his request. All the community members that made a comment denied, do not want that RV park there. It is an eyesore. And what they're talking about, the community corridor, it's down the road, and this is not an appropriate intersection for it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman.
Yeah, MPC did deny it. They were concerned with the zoning this, the highway commercial, that there could be other uses that after these workers were no longer there, that those uses, they be like a hotel on this. That's one of the things that's allowed, even though it's, so, and I understand that. That's always a valid concern when you rezone a piece of property. You not only rezone it for its potential use, then you're rezoning it for all future uses that could be had. Which is why in hindsight, and there's a lot of hindsight analysis going on here. In hindsight, we probably should have asked for the transition zone. And the transition zone is unique in that its intent is to, like I said, allow commercial uses which are not major traffic generators, and would not open the area up to objectionable types of commercial uses. And The administration is that you'd have a site plan approved for that use. And if it stops being that use, the approval is withdrawn. So that is something I think that it would have to go back for consideration. And Planning Commission has to decide, there's specific uses that are listed in the transition zone. And then it says other uses as determined by the Planning Commission that would not be, incompatible with the adjacent property. And so that would be something the Planning Commission would have to consider at that time, but it would address the major concern as to what could come next. And again, this is going to be a temporary use, and that zone would allow, which is why I'm asking for this body to consider at least sending that back to Planning Commission for consideration. Again, in hindsight, he came to me, he said that he was informed by codes on 9/5/2024. His application was filed on 9/30/2024. Same day he came and saw me. Had very little time to really put any thought to it. And maybe if I had that time, I would have been able to go back and say, maybe we should consider this instead. But we were trying to move quickly because he knew, he was told at that time, hey, I'm in violation, I need to do something to fix it, which he took immediate steps to do that. So, I mean, I understand when you have someone who's in violation of codes, you have neighbors that have complained about it, and he's related to most of the neighbors around that area, so he didn't think there was any issue about it until after he was informed by codes that there had been some complaints. He had a conversation with Commissioner Daley, and he told Commissioner Daley he thought it was allowed in the ag zone, and I think that may have what triggered them to come in and say, no, it isn't, because when you're a layperson, you look at lodging, you think, well, lodging's allowed in the ag zone, so this should be that. Maybe should have picked up the phone and called somebody. Again, that's a hindsight analysis, but he's not a developer. He's someone who lives there and saw an opportunity to provide a service. Enbridge, they're working in South Knoxville. They're not working up in Raccoon Valley. The point of this, they want to be as close to their work as possible. It's hard work. It's backbreaking work. They have their own RVs because they want to come back to something that they're familiar with and comfortable with. And so that's something that he was able to allow them. There's no infrastructure really for this. He said, I put down some gravel so, they could park. And that was it. So I do think it's appropriate. I know, there have been complaints, but I think let's take the time for something like this and do it right and send it back to Planning Commission for reconsideration. If they deny it again, then at least we've not forestalled something that I think started from a good intention. And we can take more time to look at this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Brewster, for admitting your faults. I always appreciate anybody who could admit their faults. But I just want to make a kind of a statement. I don't know that it would be best practice for this body to consider a plan amendment or a rezoning for a temporary use, period. And when looking at this parcel, it is completely surrounded by ag. And so I can't even find a reason that the criteria would be met to consider a plan amendment or any rezoning to any other zone, even in transition zone, if it does have some temporary uses. It is what it is. And we are responsible for not only looking out for you, but for the entire community. And again, I don't think it's best practice for us to consider a temporary use, a entire change for a plan amendment or a rezoning, period. So, I'm so sorry. I really am. I understand that you were just trying to do the right thing and, correct a wrong. And I sympathize with you, but I also have a duty. And I hope that you can understand and appreciate that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Brewster, would you like to say something?
Please, I just want to address a few things. I didn't say that my grandfather couldn't see it. I stated that he couldn't hear any noise brought in from the neighbors and the campers. I did not say anything about sight. It's 5 acres isn't that big. You can see 5 acres pretty quick. It doesn't take much to look at 5 acres. The campers that there are, every spot is within code as far as within the lot size per. So they're not stacked in like cordwood, they're stacked in per code if that was to be measured on. So to somebody come out and see the site size, it is based on code, what a RV spot is supposed to be.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'd appreciate it if we could reconsider it. It would really mean a lot to us.
I appreciate it. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the applicant, sorry, make you keep coming back up to the podium. I'm sorry. Oh, no, you're fine. And now, you know, he referenced the number of campers. Do you have 20 or 30 campers out there currently?
There is 24 campers.
Okay. How are they getting utilities? Is it,
Electric and water is provided, and we're pumping the sewer out.
okay, so you're pumping, so you have,
Yes,
I
sir.
guess, a service like
Yes, sir.
ETP coming out and doing
Correct, yes, sir.
doing the sewer, okay. How'd you get into this? I mean, because you say it's temporary, it was, and I guess some, part of that's irrelevant, but, here we are. That's 24 campers, and I can somewhat relate because, you know, we've got a farm and there were, a friend of ours was a fuel truck driver and a few of his friends were fuel truck drivers. Well, that was a nice transition zone because those fuel trucks, they wanted to keep them running 24 hours a day. So our farm was a nice meeting spot to switch drivers. But, and that was very temporary, but with this, I concur with Commissioner Frazier. The zoning is from now on, and we can't change it. You know, we could, but we've already tried to go through that process. It doesn't work. So,
Can you
once it's
explain what you meant process didn't work? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
meaning, once it's rezoned, we can't arbitrarily go back and downzone it back to ag once it's zoned this, because you've now, you know, had vested rights that you've used. But I guess my question for Director Snowden and Director Brooks, is there a permit process that would allow for that many campers in any zoning? I know his acreage is fairly small. It doesn't have enough acreage for the rural preservation, which would allow for something like that.
And I'd be interested to see what Amy's thoughts are, but we consider this, I think, a transient mobile home park. And there's only two zones that's allowed in the zoning ordinance, is the CH and the CB zones. So I don't believe, well, our regulations would permit any kind of temporary use like this other than those two zones as a use by right.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? When I called with Mike Reynolds in planning, he had mentioned that their transition zone as well would support it. If we could support it with the transition zone, I'd be willing to agree to certain stipulations that we could agree to the fact of how long they could stay or how long we could have them or the certain year model of the campers or anything. I'm willing to see if we could agree to any certain stipulations to help compromise to make it work. Again, it's just, these are inspectors, there's foremen, there's leads that are staying here that they're in charge of the gas line company. So, you know, by putting them out, it is wintertime, by putting them out, I mean, just be terrible. I'd like to be able to ask for anybody's permission if we could just temporarily get this project through and then we can abolish the RV project and or idea, I mean, that's okay. If we could just hold for these guys to get their project done, that would give them a place to live, and it don't make all these guys and people have to move. Again, just to help get them through.
I had one more question that popped in my head for Dr. Moyers and then maybe Director Brooks. With the rezoning, is there any track record anywhere else where there's, I guess, a sunset clause on it, or where it has an expiration date to where it suits the temporary needs? Because obviously we're not going to be going back and downzoning it as a legislative body.
There
There's no rezoning that has sunset. Now, I don't know that much about transition zones because I don't know that I've ever dealt with it. But Ben says that the use can expire, it's a use on review. I'm sorry. That there's a use on review and the use could expire and then that permission would be gone, but it would still be the transition zone. And whatever can happen with that. So, I'm not aware of any automatically rezoning resolution or mechanism you could enter into.
Commissioner Thompson, if I can, just looking at, it's 5.36.11, the administration provision of the transition zone. Again, it says, that, it says that the Planning Commission may recommend the inclusion of uses of other related natures, provided the intent of the resolution is maintained. They come forward with a development plan saying exactly what they are intending to do. It says, no building permit shall be issued for construction of any building on the land until the Planning Commission has approved the development plan. A statement of approval has been affixed. So everything has to be approved, even if it still remains transition zone. They can't do anything else unless someone moves forward with a different plan. It says, the building permit shall be revoked if construction of any part or phase of the development is not in compliance with the approved plan. So it's limited to those approved plans itself. If something changes, it would no longer be legal. That's, it's the best we have under our current zoning ordinance, is
And
my
then,
opinion.
but those would go before planning commission, not before us, correct?
The development plans would go before planning commission. The rezoning to transition zone would have to come back before you if it's sent back to planning commission for consideration.
Okay. Are there, obviously, you're not currently in compliance. Are you being assessed fees, penalties, fines for noncompliance?
No, not to my knowledge at this moment. I know that, I don't think this, I think they're just waiting and based on rezoning.
No, not yet. I think if this zoning, this appeal is denied, then that would be something that would occur very quickly.
Okay.
Before I go to the next commissioner, I need to let our junior commissioners know that they are welcome to go ahead and go now. We're about 13 minutes past 9 o'clock. If you want to stay, you're welcome to, but we want you to know that you can go ahead and go if you need to, and that is not held against you. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. What is the expected remainder of their residency if you're allowed to keep them?
Yes, ma'am. So the project was planned and was scheduled to be complete by March. Of course, they're not exactly familiar with our weather, and we don't know what weather we'll have. There is such thing as rainout days. So the idea is that there's no way it should be longer than June or July, but they're hoping maybe for April or May. So for me to stand to ask for June or July would be for reassurance to give them extra time, but it shouldn't be that long. Their goal is March or April.
And you said you had 24?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm assuming there is some compensation in this for you?
Yes, ma'am, we are charging them, but it's not really it's not that, I guess, that extreme. It's more just because you start taking a lot of utilities and stuff, they're very expensive to operate.
I understand. So this violation that we're looking at, am I correct, Director Snowden, that the code's violation is $50?
It is pretty small, yes, ma'am.
$50
Yes.
a month?
A day.
Per day.
This violation reads, in addition to the campground is prohibited, just take that one out of it completely. It says, storage of inoperable vehicles, must remove trash, scrap metal, auto parts, loose debris, must remove all but one inoperable or current tagged vehicle. Only one inoperable vehicle is allowed. Is all that the result of the 24 trailers?
No, ma'am. I've got a garage there on the property. It's 30 by 60. I pulled vehicles out of that shop to work in the shop. You can't work in there overhead with the vehicles in there. I pull vehicles out of the shop. I've put vehicles back in. Again, and Mr. Kaufman tried to mention earlier, I don't own Topside Road property anymore, Mr. Kaufman, so just to
This
let you
isn't
know.
about topside.
I understand, so I don't have vehicle, storage or whatnot as far as, but in that building. So when I brought them out, I've taken care of everything as far as inoperable vehicles. We never had trash. Codes enforcement, they seen that we had rubber tracks. I don't know if you know what a rubber track is, come off of a skid steer. In agriculture, we do have gardens. We do raise our, have gardens and raise our, vegetables and whatnot. And so this raised tracks, they consider to be rubbish or debris. They're actually repurposed. The tracks sit above the ground. We can put dirt in them. When you go to flip your potatoes and your onions, you don't have to dig them. You flip that track over and you have all your vegetables. You don't have all your potatoes, you ain't got to dig them up. They considered that trash and debris. I tried to explain to them it's not. We're not trashy people. We don't have trash. We're going to get rid of it. Scrap metal, you might have pieces of iron, an angle or steel of some sort, but it's not laying out to where somebody's going to see it. But you have dump trucks and things that may need repair, things like that. That's a valuable piece that you might need it. But we don't have things laying out in the middle that's just like that. We've tried to keep everything tidied up. Now we have been moving things around, so as far as people see things move, I mean, I do my best to keep everything tidy. I'm one person. I don't run a business here. I have a full-time job, so I just do the best that I can do with what I've got to work with. I don't try to make it look trashy or anything like such, because it is our home and we take value in our home.
And I appreciate that. So your statement is that the scrap metal, the auto parts, the loose debris, and the non-tagged vehicles are all off of the property now?
That should be, yeah. They have, to understand the exact definition of maybe trailers, I don't mean a mobile home trailer, a utility trailer. I've got a few trailers. I think if you read the codes, says that you're not supposed to have more than 2 or something for your home occupancy. But, in farming, you need utility trailers to haul hay and and it's very hard to have 1 or 2 trailers to do a majority of the things that we do. You can't have just 1 trailer to do it all. If you did, everybody in the world would own one of them.
I would think ag zoning would allow you more than 1 trailer.
I would think so, but if it allows 2, it says 2 commercial vehicles and or trailers. So codes they didn't really agree with that. So that's one thing that Arwood and the rest had to write down. It's like, these trailers are road ready and they're not bothering anybody. There's a 20-ton tilt trailer, there's a 12-ton, every trailer's got a different purpose. It's really hard to stand here and explain to them if they don't have this kind of lifestyle that we live in this kind of a business, you know what I'm saying? But it's really hard to
So all of
to
this
be in
is,
the agriculture and not have any equipment. I mean, that's just kind of crazy.
so all of this is not about what was left by the trailers?
No, ma'am. No,
This
no
is all
such-
stuff they're dinging you for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
It's one vehicle, like I said before, my great-grandparents lived on this property before Johnsonville Highway was built. One vehicle in particular is this 1965 Chevrolet pickup. That's my papa Sheridan drove that truck. He worked down the marble mill and he lived on that property. They're upset about that vehicle. It's like, that truck's been here and paid enough registration taxes over the years, it's this. Good gracious, it's a 65 model truck, it's my great-grandfather's, I pulled it out of the garage to work.
Gotcha.
Commissioners,
Thank you.
sorry to interrupt, but our junior commissioners have to leave at 9 per our parental consent form. So thank you all for lasting this long, but you all
Yes.
go ahead and get home.
Nice to meet you. Look forward to it.
Let me know if you're gonna. Thank you.
You got hit with
If
a
you have
doozy
any
on your first
questions,
day.
call me. I'm happy to.
No, I get it. It's fine.
But he'll understand.
Don't worry about it. We've got the one scheduled, so that's fine. You're welcome.
It's gotta be the party pooper. Said everybody hold.
Careful. It was nice to meet you. Everybody drive careful. Commissioner Fox, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How much are you getting paid per RV?
You can ask.
Receiving $750 per
What?
camper. Can't ask that.
Oh,
So can we take
okay.
that off the record? Because I answered the question.
Well,
And now we have this.
okay.
Can I, can you
All right.
answer, can you make sure?
All right, that's fine. I'm not gonna push on it. I do have a question for Officer Kaufman. Hey,
Would I get a chance to rebuttal since they've had a chance to rebuttal?
well,
Because there's some questions, or he brought up some things that I can help clarify.
well, first, I do want to make one statement that, what was communicated to me by Steve Buttry, who's the lobbyist for, or the PR person, not lobbyist, but the PR person for, Enbridge, is that they were scheduled to finish this in March, and I advised him that, I mean, he was unaware of the situation, and I advised Mr. Buttry that their employees were currently, residing in a spot that was not zoned for this, and it's my understanding that he's going to be acting through the company, and they're going to be advising the employees that they can't stay here, okay, unless it was zoned. So that's from the Enbridge side. And, from my perspective, I admire the entrepreneurial spirit of Mr. Brewster, but considerations that I had not realized came to my attention, and that's why I wanted to bring Officer Kaufman back up, because once this Enbridge job is done and the facility is not entirely populated by Enbridge employees, it could place a spot in, kind of the heart of South Knox County that could easily be used for crime. And I think Officer Kaufman is a KPD officer, and he may be able to speak to that a little bit, and that's.
Yeah, so I am an officer with the Knox Police Department. I've been there for 22 years. Where you have transient workers, folks, after they leave, you're going to bring in more crime within transient areas. And it's not what the community wants, it's not what the community needs. After these folks leave, there could be, if he keeps it as the RV park, there could be other folks that come in there. If you think about it, Walmart doesn't allow people to camp in their parking lots anymore, the RVs and all that. Why? Because they were having many problems, a vast array of problems. You could name up a dozen different types of problems that come with them. And that's coming into a residential area. And that's not what I want for my son in that area. That's not what I want for my neighbors who have young children in that area. It's not what we want.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman.
But then also, they're talking about like transient places. South Lake RV Park, literally just not even half a mile away. You got 2 large RV parks that are ready to assist them if this does not go for Mr. Brewster and them. They are aware that, hey, we might have an influx of people, and they're trying to make sure with their corporate, the ones up off of Raccoon Valley, hey, can we make some accommodations if they have to leave Mr. Brewster's property? And the folks down at the South Lake one, right around the corner, has said, please let us know if we can help if they have to leave, per the codes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Moyers, just for clarification, the question that was asked previously about not asking what the rent was charged, is that something we're not allowed to ask?
I'm not aware of any reason why you can't ask it. That at the end of the day, this is about whether or not this particular zone he's seeking is the appropriate zone. So what he's making right now is not really relevant to that question.
Okay.
But I don't know of any reason why you couldn't ask it.
Okay, okay, thank you. Mr. Brewster, so you you were letting these RVs on behalf of the gas company? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I guess I'm concerned because the gas company came to you to ask you, and the gas company is operating in Knox County that has rules and regulations, and they didn't think to ask Knox County. And so I support what the other commissioners are saying, and we have these zoning and all the rules of the county for a reason.
I understand.
And you can have good intentions, but it's like, if you break the codes, it's kind of like you're breaking the law.
I understand.
So I can't support this by any means. Okay.
Understand. And when I said in the beginning, like I said, when I started this, when you were reading the definition of lodging and boarding houses is specifically defined in the Knox County codes. Lodging is not. Now, I'm just some redneck in South Knoxville that don't mean much, but in my Googling and my defining of the word lodging, it came back as Knox County's definition in their code. What is the term, what is the paper, the code, I don't know, anyway. If you look up Knox County's definition of lodging and you search the word lodging in the whole definition of the codes, it comes back as hotel. If you look up the definition of hotel in Knox County, it comes not only as a structure, but it's space for rent. You know, it's a ground space that can be used, so that doesn't require a structure or building or any such, and that's covered under lodging. So when my initial thought was the fact that lodging and boarding housing covered what we were doing. So I never intended to break any rules or any laws, because the word lodging is not defined anywhere in the Knox County codes for their zoning enforcements or anything.
I understand what you're saying,
And
but your
so-
intentions,
My
you're speaking
intentions.
of your intentions may have been good. Don't doubt that.
Understand,
But I'm
I just
saying if
wasn't-
you, but the thing is that the codes have a job.
I understand
They're doing
that.
their job, and if you should have saw it, maybe like talking to a lawyer before that.
Is there any way we can get the definition that Knox County sees for the word lodging? Can we get that defined?
That would be, Mr. Moyers, we could maybe address that.
I've just looked at it. I've looked in our codes, and I'm only finding the definition of lodging under Article 3, hotel occupancy tax.
Correct. Couldn't find anything else with the word lodging and have any definitions, anything through Knox County papers of any sort. But the word singularly, it's not a compound, it's not a fraction, it's not a part of a word. It's comma, lodging, comma. It's solely using the definition of lodging to describe, to define the word. If you use a thesaurus, use the synonyms of such words, it comes back all to support what I'm saying. I'm not trying to contest, it's just that was my point of view when this all started. This wasn't to say codes and I'm trying to not follow codes. It was the fact that this should follow under, because it was just space is all we're looking to rent. You know, we're not trying to provide them a roof, we're not trying to provide them breakfast or eggs or any such, just for these gentlemen. And then again, and to speak of any kind of drug traffic, these people are older gentlemen. These are inspectors. These are foremans, leads. They have families. They're married. We don't tolerate such. I won't tolerate it. We won't have that I won't tolerate it, period. We're not going to have that on our property and won't stand by it. So as far as trash and drugs or anything like that to be on our property, we're not going to stand for it. Like I said, we live on the site and we won't allow it.
Thank you, Mr. Brewster.
100%.
We need to kind of move this along and get to other commissioners. I haven't had a chance to ask any questions. Commissioner Durrett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Brewster, we're talking about RVs, right?
Mobile, like campers or,
Do they have wheels?
yes, ma'am.
I think that's part of the problem.
We need to unbolt them. Just kidding.
And I know you spoke to your intent. It's not your intent to sell this property. It's not your intent to develop it. It's not your intent to do anything. The problem with zoning is once we rezone something, it stays with the property not the property owner.
I understand.
So if you were to decide for some reason to leave the property and sell it, it will remain the zoning that we do tonight.
Right.
And to rezone something on a permanent basis for a temporary situation seems very much like a slippery slope to me.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The idea of the transition zone would be every use would have to be permitted. So therefore, no matter if the property was sold, if whoever presented whatever new idea they had, and if it's not approved, it wouldn't be permitted. They couldn't proceed in that transition zoning without approval of. So that would come down to you all to approve it. Am I wrong on that? Planning Commission, I'm so sorry. Again, I'm not here, Planning Commission to approve that.
Very quickly, the transition zone would also require a plan amendment.
It would, you would have to go to you'd have to look at the SMR plan. And I question that. We talked about place types a lot and what should be. I don't know why a transition zone wouldn't be allowed in every place type, but it's not under our current matrix.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Russell?
Yes, sir, to the owner. How many acres is it you said you had?
Almost 5.
Almost 5 acres. And how many, why do you need 3 or 4? You were saying that you needed all of this equipment for farming because you needed to haul hay. Just how much hay do you get off that 5 acres?
Well, there's a property that joins ours, that's, with Mr. Price. And we help him as well. He's got 40 acres up on the river, and he's got 44 acres that's right behind us that joins on the end of Ottinger. Him and my grandfather have farmed for years. I was a kid growing up, and I've helped him farm, and we've still continued to help him.
But it's your equipment, not his equipment, and it's on your property.
Yes, ma'am. It's my,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I have not heard one convincing argument in order to, on this. So I respectfully request that we move on. Somebody make a motion to deny and move it.
Commissioner Jackson, would you like to make the motion?
Make a motion to deny.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jackson and a second by Commissioner Lee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, please.
Item number 18, 11-N-24-RZ is a request, it's an appeal by Hunter Brewster of the Knox County Planning Commission's denial of a request for rezoning from
Maybe
A
we don't.
and to CH Highway Commercial, and the property description is the same as the previous item.
Madam Chair, it's my understanding that if the plan amendment failed, we do not have to consider the
Okay.
rezoning.
All right, I missed that, I apologize. Next item, amendments to the zoning ordinance, we have none. Public forum, open topics, none. Do we have any other business? Remember, commission is next Monday at 5 o'clock. And seeing no other business before this commission, it is adjourned.